One of the things that got lost, and this typically happens with the general narcissism of Greg Cody on Tuesdays, is Billy did ask him whatever happened to an assortment of mascots, and Greg Cody just went to his own informational source, wasn't listening to the question, wasn't answering the question, provided us with content, but didn't answer at all what it is that the hypothesis was, which is, are we losing our mascots, our corporate mascots? Are we losing them?
Well, not losing the bunny, because I just recently saw a commercial with the Energizer Bunny breaking his drum. So we're still doing commercials with
What
the
about the
Energizer
Duracell bunny?
No, he's gone.
Oh.
Copper top.
Bring him back. I think Ronald McDonald, who's dead, should reappear as the Duracell mascot.
Wow. What if Ronald McDonald started infiltrating other ads?
Can you guys slow down for a second? I just want to,
What happened?
I just want to know what your copper tone shout and then.
Copper top.
Like what your copper top shout, what was that?
That's the nickname for Duracell. Everyone knows that.
Yeah,
Copper top.
Copper top.
Yep.
He's got a nickname for everything.
The question
Welcome
I was
back.
going to ask you guys about whether or not the internet has fooled me is the girlfriend. This is, I assume this is true. I'm going to just say alleged. Girlfriend of Texas special teams coordinator Jeff Banks. She has a monkey, and that monkey reportedly bit a child on Halloween.
Ooh.
The girlfriend is a woman that evidently Banks left his wife and kids for. She is a stripper who goes by the name Pole Assassin. And the monkey, who is named Gia, has been incorporated into her act. She has also appeared on Jerry Springer. Her monkey apparently bit a child on Halloween, although she denies it in a series of tweets.
Story's bananas. What? Oh my God.
The worst part about that is this is how the story begins on the internet that I skipped over. Are you ready for the most bananas story in college football this year? That's an intended pun, the writer says, because a monkey owned by the girlfriend of Texas special teams coordinator. So I skipped the most obvious shitty joke, and you went right in for the stolen joke.
I did. That shit is bananas.
People lie so much it's ridiculous, she writes on Twitter. Stop believing everything you hear and more of what you see, SMH. No one was viciously attacked. This is a lie, a whole lie. She was not a part of any haunted house. The kid did not have permission to be on the other side of my property.
Uh-oh.
Sounds like some monkey business to me, Dano. What? Jesus.
She writes, I had a haunted house on one side gated off. He had no permission to go past the gate, and I had no idea he went into my backyard. Neither did I know anything about a bite until a doctor of a neighborhood told me to treat a small bite. No parent has contacted me about it.
If that was my son, I'd go ape shit. Give it to me. What? Oh my God.
Keep swinging.
Ape shit.
Yeah, we heard you the first time. Saying it louder was not really necessary. Yes, she has had all her shots. She's an emotional support animal who is not to be touched. She speaks by command of high five. No one is allowed to touch her unless I say myself, and I okay it.
Wow. I believe her.
Are you out of material? That's all you got, Stugotz? You got 3. You got ape shit, bananas, and that you got nothing else there?
I got nothing else there. She obeys commands. It's monkey see, monkey do. I mean, just off the top of my head. What?
Top of your head. I heard it in your ears. Like I was.
You
waiting
should have heard
for
it
Mike
twice.
I was waiting. You didn't hear him the first time because Billy Corbin was in here and turned down your headset. Look out. Here's the coughing guy. Hold on. Just
You
do
all right?
it. Just do it into the microphone.
You okay? Well, no, he's hunched over.
You know, I had heard that story we're talking about through the ape vine.
That monkey sounded angry, more like furious, George. I heard a laugh. Greg
eight
got it.
line, you
Yeah.
didn't even hear
Oh
what his
my
joke
God.
was. You were so busy trying to get to your joke that
Furious.
even though I just repeated it, what was his joke?
I don't know.
I heard it through the apevine.
Ah.
Me and Marvin Gaye. We both heard that story at the same time.
I don't get it.
What was the monkey dressed as for Halloween?
A stripper.
Nobody has anything unless I keep talking. Like
Yeah,
I need to
that's
keep
it.
talking. Otherwise, you guys only have you can only fire your weapons if I keep talking. There's nothing else there.
Right. The monkey was unclothed. He was going trick-or-treating as a stripper.
I would imagine that Greg Cody and Stugotz are very excited here because the trade deadline in football has arrived. I imagine a whole lot of people are wondering whether Deshaun Watson will be traded today. Von Miller was something that shook the league yesterday. He goes from Denver to the Rams. I love the idea. Everyone's like, whoa, the Rams are all in, as if they weren't all in the moment they traded for Stafford, as if there aren't, a dozen teams in the league that are all in. But when you trade for Von Miller and you have three of the highest paid best players on defense, Jalen Ramsey, Aaron Donald, and a big name in Von Miller. I don't know how much he has left according to the analytics. I saw 4.5 sacks and I saw 25 pressures for a team that already gets a good pass rush.
I believe that's fourth in the NFL in terms of pressures. So he's still pretty good.
Yeah, they're pairing number 1 in pressures over the last few years with number 4 in pressures over the last few years. Von Miller is still good. He's not what he was when they won Super Bowl 50, but he's still very good.
I imagine better with Aaron Donald because Aaron Donald is perpetually taking double teams. But the thing about that team, and I'm assuming it's the same for you guys, when I think of the Rams, I do not think of defense. Like when I do word association, I'm not saying that they don't have a good defense. I'm not saying that Aaron Donald, I mean, I'd make the argument. You can argue he's the best defensive player ever in the conversation with Lawrence Taylor and anyone, but I just don't think of defense first when I think of that team. I think of creativity offensively.
Well, I think that's because of Sean McVay and his reputation as an offensive mind and an offensive coach.
Well, you've seen that Goff can't play, right? You've seen that Goff couldn't play before him and can't play since. Goff can't play.
No, he can't. But you think offense with McVay because he's a guy that took Jared Goff. You see what Goff is now, and he took Jared Goff to a Super Bowl. Like he got that quarterback to a Super Bowl. So you think great offensive mind, and maybe he realized, hey, in order for me to win the entire thing, I need to have a better defense. And he certainly has at least by name, has a fantastic defense.
What he's got, and this is, I mean, I guess those things can be synonyms where you say that great players make for great defense, but what makes them great players is, and I think this is what McVay is playing for, is go get me the football. Like, go make these. It's not about run stuffing. Aaron Donald sometimes will go games where you see zeros across the board because they're just terrified getting the ball out, throwing it as quickly as they can because they don't want to turn the ball over. So they've got three players that go and create giant disaster plays. The Jalen Ramsey, doesn't he have 2 games this season that he's ended with an interception already for them? That the game is finished when he locks someone down.
I honestly think you should. It's not a sexy name, but Leonard Floyd is someone who is absolutely dominated games for them and has made impactful plays. They got a middle of the road defense, nothing super special in terms of advanced metrics. However, Von Miller is still very good. He's got the 6th highest edge pass rusher grade on Pro Football Focus. Mina Kimes actually did a bit on NFL Live. The video is out there of what this signaled to the NFL. It's the Rams blitz 6th most in the NFL. If you look at the NFC standings right now, they're going to have to play some very good quarterbacks to get to the Super Bowl. They want to be able to get a rush with just their front line so they can sit all those defenders back, because if they blitz as much as they have against the likes of Kyler Murray and Aaron Rodgers, they might be carved up.
They give up 21 points per game, which I think is like 11th or 12th in the NFL. So to Mike's point, it's a middle-of-the-road defense. But 21 points per game, usually that's enough for the Rams, where they'll score more than 21 points.
What I would say to you about middle-of-the-road defense is there are any number of ways to measure defenses. But when you're going to get players that wreck a blind side, cause fumbles, turnovers. I don't know where they are in turnovers, but my guess is whatever the metrics are you're using to arrive at 11th or 12th in defense isn't accounting for just somebody wrecking your offense and getting the ball back. And that and Von Miller, beyond sacks, what he does is sacks and disruptions that knock the ball loose.
Well, the Rams are 10th in defense, which is upper third if you're seeing the glass half full, which is good. And 21 points is nothing now. If you're Matt Stafford,
Right.
You beat 21 points.
Do you feel
Yes.
confident with the Dolphins giving up 21 points in a game and winning that football
No,
game?
but they don't have that offense.
Right.
If I had that offense, I'd feel fine giving up 21 points per game. They're tied for 4th in terms of turnovers. So they do turn the ball over.
This is how I would be measuring defense if I'm McVay. Go get me the ball back.
Yes. And they got a guy you can go get him the ball back.
Be middle of the road.
Right.
Be middle of the road. Go. I want to play offense. Get me the ball.
Pro Football Focus rates the Rams defense quite highly. They're top five, a top 5 defense there. I think as high as number 2.
Because they are factoring in turnovers.
Yeah, they're
They have to.
yeah, and they I mean, the tape grinders and analytics people, they just love what Aaron Donald brings to the team. I was surprised they had room for Von Miller, and then I read that Denver's actually paying
everything.
Yeah, most of the salary.
Rams
which-
don't have any draft picks, right?
No,
No.
they've spent all their draft capital trying to get to this moment, and this is in line in terms of an aggressive move. This is in line with what they feel is their window to win right now.
Aren't you upset on the other side if you're the Broncos? I mean, that division's open. You're 4-4.
Oh, they're not good enough. Come on, Stugotz.
what do you
they're not
mean?
good enough. Come on.
You're
Teddy,
bailing on a season.
What
I mean,
are you gonna?
They have the same record as the Chiefs, to your point, but they did get a really good haul on a guy that they probably weren't bringing back at that price. They did draft Bradley Chubb, and while we didn't get to see nearly enough of both of them together, they have a succession plan in place.
You will name 15 teams before you name the Broncos. I mean, 4-4. They just
Right.
spent a month losing football games because
well,
Teddy,
they won their last game. I'm just saying, you're 4-4. You're in the division. You have a
Stugotz,
chance.
they
The
beat-
division's
come on,
open, Dan.
Put it on the poll, Guillermo. Do the Broncos have a chance? Like, I don't even know what. I mean, nobody thinks that. The Broncos don't think that.
In Denver, they don't think that.
That game was so bad against the Washington football team this weekend. It
It's-
was hard. It was just hard to
It's
watch.
Teddy Bridgewater being Teddy Bridgewater. I don't feel comfortable in a game where they've given up 21 points with
No.
him, with the Denver Broncos
No.
getting me
Now
21.
it's kind of hurt Teddy Bridgewater trying to do Teddy Bridgewater thing, so it's an even more diluted
You,
version.
you know what's funny about this, though? This is what I want to ask you guys, because Aaron Rodgers, I mean, I know that he did the braggadocio thing in the end zone where it was like, I've owned you all my life, Chicago. I still own you. But one of the cockiest things I've heard him say was he did a South Beach session with us, and he said, I revolutionized the position. I made it so that position can't turn the ball over. And Teddy Bridgewater will go out there and be competent for you. He will get you the 18-play, 70-yard drive for a field goal that you need. But what I thought when I saw Jameis Winston injured for the season, I thought to myself, my God, it must be terrible to realize as Jameis Winston, the difference between Tampa being 7-9 and winning the Super Bowl is just they had all of my turnovers, and then Tom Brady came in and just eliminated 2/3 of the turnovers. And the difference between me being in the NFL as a starting quarterback for a good team, throwing for 5,000 yards, the difference between 7-9 and championship was me. And you look up and you're in New Orleans as a backup and you realize it's because of the turnovers. It's because the sport has changed so much that Denver will go into a season, you know what? Just get me Teddy Bridgewater. Get me Teddy Bridgewater. He'll do smart things. He won't turn the ball over that much. He won't take any risks. There will be no risks taken.
He'd actually be perfect, Teddy Bridgewater, to be the guy that replaces Jameis Winston. He was 5-0 in that offense. He was. I mean, he's a perfect guy to go get today.
Yes, but
Yes.
that team, that team,
That team,
New
yes.
Orleans,
With that defense.
Denver wasn't a Teddy Bridgewater away.
No.
They did have a real good defense at the start of the season, but they've been nuked by
They
injuries.
don't
There
have-
are very few teams that are a Teddy Bridgewater away.
That is
The
correct.
Saints are one of
That
them.
is
Yeah.
correct.
Okay.
I'm with you there.
Carolina decided they were not a Teddy Bridgewater away because they were a Sam Darnold away.
I'm with you. I'm just trying to explain what the logic was behind starting Teddy Bridgewater. when healthy, their defense, you'd stack them up with anybody, and then their defense started getting hurt.
You mentioned Pro Football Focus. I just want to read this to you because I don't feel like this past weekend of football games that you would have answered what I'm about to read you as a list. I'm going to do a top 10 list here. I'm going to go from the bottom. This is Stugotz's wheelhouse right here, even though he doesn't like Pro Football Focus and neither he nor Cody likes analytics. Highest graded quarterbacks in week 8. Are you ready for this?
This most recent week of games.
Just week 8.
Just week 8. But
does this include Monday night?
I was surprised by the names on here. I don't actually know this because I don't know if it includes Chiefs Giants last night.
I mean, neither
of those guys made the top 10. Okay.
Listen to these names. Like, I just couldn't believe the quarterbacks with the highest ratings in a league that we're fascinated by that position, and we emphasize that position. Number 10 was Josh Allen. Number 9 was Ryan Tannehill. Number 8 was Justin Fields.
Wow.
Number 7, Mac Jones. Number 6, Kirk Cousins.
Slow down. All right, go.
Why are you writing them down?
I like to write them down. It's a top 10 list.
So you want me to slow down?
You are 5.
When are you ever going to revisit the notes?
I'm going to throw to the garbage.
Of the top 10
in an hour.
Focus grades of week 8 of this NFL season.
Is there anyone in our audience writing these down? Like, was anyone else saying slow down?
Yeah, they all were.
You have to write them down.
You have to. Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Number 6 was Kirk Cousins.
I got that already.
Did you?
Speed it up.
That's right.
Yeah.
Number 5,
Reruns.
Geno Smith.
Gino.
Number 4, Jimmy Garoppolo. Number 3, Jalen Hurts. Number 2, Matthew Stafford. And
hold on. Was Jalen 3?
Yes.
Okay. Where was Jimmy G?
4.
Okay, you're on 2. Stafford. Okay. Number 1.
Sam Darnold.
Whoa!
No way. See, you can't trust analytics.
Wow.
You just can't. That's
Sam
ridiculous.
Sam
How is
Darnold
that
didn't
possible?
have any passing touchdowns.
By the way, the previous 2 weeks, Tua Tagovailoa was not only on that top 10, but high on it.
Wow, so you took notes 2 weeks ago.
I did. Well, it's all up here. I don't write down. I commit to memory.
I had, in some respects, a sad football weekend where, because I was in the woods with no reception and very few channels, I felt like it was 1980 again, and all I had access to at 1 o'clock, which made me sad, was Carolina, Atlanta.
Ooh.
Oh, God.
Sorry about that.
Yeah,
Really?
and so I wanted to ask you guys, Arthur Smith and Matt Rule, do they represent the two most disheveled coaches? I couldn't have imagined that there would have been a more disheveled matchup, even though some body types out there do get ridiculed, like Andy Reid. They did not give me a great deal of confidence just based on appearance, if you want that position to be leadership presidential.
I think Urban Meyer still leads the league in disheveledness right now.
Really?
Also, a tough
Belichick.
weekend for him because so many people dressed up as him for
Belichick's
Halloween.
a good one, yeah.
But
But Arthur Smith, I'm totally with
They,
Dan on
they
this.
never
Right.
shave. So Rule and Smith didn't shave at all. They didn't even bother with anything in the realm of hygiene. And then during that game, Mark Sanchez gave the commentary of benching Sam Darnold, he thought sent the wrong message. And I was wondering why.
The message was play better.
Is it just Mark Sanchez doesn't like to be benched? That's Mark Sanchez
I
looking
mean, no
at things
quarterback
through?
likes to be
I
benched.
understand, but
Right.
Mark Sanchez why is that the wrong message? And if you're not playing well enough, you don't get to keep playing.
I mean, Darnold was ranked number 1 by PFF.
So what,
He
why was it-
responded.
so he responded to the wrong message?
Yes.
So he responded to the wrong message.
I'm not surprised that Mark Sanchez would defend a USC quarterback that flamed out with the Jets.
I want to also ask Stugotz, because something I heard ancillary about, this was surprising to me, the 49ers-Bears game, is the announcer in that game called it a classic something's gotta give game.
It was.
Wow.
It was.
Yeah.
How?
Because those are two teams that are very similar. and something had to give.
Had to give.
Something did give,
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Usually
Bears'
does.
rush defense.
and their pass defense.
Also, Arthur Smith looks like he spends all his time at a bar called the 19th Hole.
You guys believe that what could be elevated to a something's got to give game? I feel like the something's got to give game has to have better teams in it than Chicago
No,
and
I
San
think
Francisco.
typically that's how something's got to give games work.
Yeah.
You have two teams teetering on 500, right? If one wins, you look at their season in a totally different light. Something's got to give.
But
Something's gotta
Dan's
give.
thinking there has to be some sort of connection point, like some team
Well, you're
has
my
never done
expert. I
something.
was surprised.
Well, I'm confused, to be honest with you. I'm going to try to
I
get to
went
the
to
bottom
you
of
because
this.
this was your wheelhouse. I was
Right.
trying to figure
But
out.
did they give a reason
Yeah,
as
was
to
it
why
matchup
it's something
dependent?
has to get? I mean,
I assumed that both of the teams were on a losing streak, is what I assumed,
Well,
because it
something's
was
gotta give, then.
Chicago.
well, then
and
something would have to give. Yeah.
If it's
Yeah.
matchup dependent, when they say that, then it's not necessarily something's got to give. It's more irresistible force meets a movable object.
Like imagine the Rams and Bills playing. There's nothing that needs to give in that game.
Put it on the poll, Guillermo. Is there
I don't
anything
know.
that
I
needs
could,
to
I
give?
could be talked into that.
No, that's a who's
no,
who.
I don't think anything
No.
has to
That's
give
a
in
who's
that
who.
game.
Yeah,
I'm with
nothing
you.
has to
Nothing
give.
has to
Yeah.
give.
Yeah.
Nothing's
Yeah.
giving in that game.
A wordsmith can talk me into it. I'm just saying.
I don't think it can be both.
There's actually a definition for something's got to give.
And this is coming from the guy that invented It Factor.
I invented the it factor. That's well known.
That is a
And
bonafide.
Cold Stone.
That's true. Thank you, Billy. Something's got to give if it's a tie game in the second half. That is the dictionary definition. You look up something's got to give, and it has to be GOTTA.
What if it's a draw?
What do you
if
mean
it-
a draw?
A tie. What if
It's a tie.
What if the game ends in a tie? Nothing gave.
Nothing gave, exactly.
But something's
got
gotta.
to.
Well, something had to give, but didn't.
Well, it didn't end in a tie, so something had to give.
But if it had to give and didn't, how could it have given?
But it
Well,
did.
It didn't.
Yeah, it did.
Nothing was
The
given.
49ers won.
Well,
It gave.
in that game, but in a tie.
In a tie, nothing gives.
Right,
Not-
but
Everything is
Nothing
earned.
gives,
but
yeah.
Nothing is
both
given.
teams didn't give equally.
Exactly.
See, that's the thing.
You didn't even understand this with your anarchy exactly. When you were still talking about the Bears something got to give game and not the hypothetical tie. You know, before you came in here, Billy, today, I just turned to Chris and said, just right before you came in, I don't know what Billy believes truly about anything anymore. About anything, because I think
do you mean?
you're just throwing grenades all over the place. And I don't believe that you have said something you believe into a microphone since before the pandemic. I believe the last honest
Wow.
thing you said into a microphone
Wow.
might have been more than 18 months
Think
ago.
you know someone.
I don't have any more analysis on Carolina.
Who does Billy
I
thinks he
do.
knows?
There was that bloody hand, Dan.
so
What do you think about
confused.
that on Halloween, huh?
Matt Ryan's
Or
hand
Matty Ice needed some.
gushing blood and interceptions.
Should have been Matty Stitches.
But Calvin Ridley,
I thought what was interesting was watching this, right? Because I've made fun of some old pregame shows almost always as it relates to CBS, but I actually got to see some of the Fox one because I'm just not watching that stuff anymore. I find it makes my head hurt very often, but when you have no other options, all of a sudden you're watching a pregame show.
is Terry Bradshaw okay?
He's got a cane. He's got a cane. I don't know what the procedure was.
Didn't you get a knee replacement? That's what I recall, but I could be wrong.
He's also talked publicly and before most and was confusing to people the same way Robin Williams was confusing to people about depression, given that he's got an outsized personality, is colorful. And Fox spent a lot of time, an inordinate amount of time, telling America on Sunday that you could win a suitcase full of cash from Terry Bradshaw. This is a very big promotion. He is still a star, very highly paid star. Terry Bradshaw on that show was ahead of the curve talking about mental health publicly. And you mentioned Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley told people when they asked a couple of weeks ago, he just missed a game, he said, none of your business, which is inaccurate because literally it is the business of reporters to find out why one of the star players can't play. I understand why that would be his reaction. But the thing I was interested in watching the pregame show was Jay Glazer talking to Lane Johnson about mental illness, and then these men specifically trying to talk about this publicly. Michael Strahan saying, I've been friends with Jay Glazer for 30 years. I did not know that he struggled with this. You look at Jay Glazer and all the things that he embodies about masculinity and fighting and everything else. And he was saying off of the Lane Johnson interview, look, this isn't about muscles and manhood. We need to talk about this stuff. And then it went over to Jimmy Johnson, and Jimmy didn't seem equipped for this conversation. Jimmy just said it's important that people love you, but he didn't have very much for this conversation. And I can't imagine that people like Jimmy would, even though Jimmy's son has struggled with addiction. You get to a certain age as a football coach, specifically, I wondered how Jimmy Johnson, in the middle of that, was absorbing all of this. What are people doing talking about their feelings all the time? Like, what are they doing on like this group of men?
What are feelings?
This group of men talking about their feelings. And I thought, wow, that is a seismic shift in the way that this is talked about, that it has made its way over to this place where these guys are talking openly about a thing that would have that had so much shame around it that Strahan, Glazer's friend for 30 years, didn't know that Jay struggled with this until a couple of weeks ago.
I appreciate them, even if it's clumsy, talking about it in ways that destigmatize it, because a couple of years ago, it doesn't seem like Calvin Ridley would have done something like this. The support wouldn't have been there. We just would have all been saying, what's going on with Calvin Ridley? What a disappointing season. Is this on Arthur Smith? What the hell is going on with this player? And now you have an answer for it. It's just very hard for football people, people in general, to discuss something that they can't see, something that's intangible. It's a lot easier to talk about turf toe.
It is easier also to not talk about it, because how do you explain guy missing 2 NFL games?
Right.
And there's not anything wrong with his body. Like, you don't see in that sport, you don't see very often a guy having an ailment that doctors aren't ruling him out. You saw what Arians said about Gronkowski, right? He said he shouldn't have been out there, but he kept begging me to play. What the hell does Gronkowski need to be playing in New Orleans for? Why does Gronkowski need to be playing on AstroTurf in the middle of one of the best tight end careers we've ever seen, when they only need him for touchdowns at the end of the season?
Headed into a bye week. I mean,
but like, what you understand what you understand what I'm saying though?
Yes,
The mentality
yes.
of
why is Bruce Arians letting him play and dictate whether or not he's going to play?
Well,
that should be Arians' decision, not Rob Gronkowski's.
What Gronk looked like at the first few weeks of the season was so shockingly quick and spry that you got so used to seeing him just labor down the field with sprockets flying out of his body that you figure, wow, this is what Gronk looks like healthy. He looks like Gronk at 27 years old. And then in that Rams game that he played at, where he took vicious shot after vicious shot, he was hurt very clearly on the first one, tried to play through it. You already saw him slowing down. And then this game on Sunday against the Saints, where he looked like the guy that he looked like for the past 2 times we've seen him play a football season for a team. Just slower, sprockets flying out. Once again, it's a very easy tell. If you see a spring or sprocket fly out of him, he's not healthy.
It is amazing how almost imperceptible some of this stuff is, right, Stugotz? Because Patrick Mahomes doesn't look physically like he's moving around the same way, that he's faster than everyone else. That
right.
It seems a little more labored, does it not? Mike mentioned turf toe. He had turf toe, and it's a debilitator. But the mind is a debilitator that in football has never been allowed to be injured. You can't not be counted on, Stugotz, to, in that sport, be there by your teammate's side. And I do wonder how this goes over in these locker rooms where I did not ever think that these locker rooms would be equipped for some of the stuff that is happening around the world that is infiltrating that locker room. I thought this locker room, this one in this sport, because of the culture, you play, you tough through it, go get the needles, you beg to play, Rob Gronkowski, even though it's weak. Well, what are you doing? You're Gronkowski.
There's a pie next week.
Your body hurts. Take
play. They have O.J. Howard. It's fine.
They've got Cameron.
He wants to play, man.
I know, but
3 deep at this position. You're good.
You're 3 deep at that position.
I know Antonio Brown's out, but they put Godwin in the slot.
Yeah.
It's insane. And the Calvin Ridley thing, to take it back to him, it made sense. It made sense. Just if you've watched him this season, he looks like a different player. Something's not right, to the point I'm like, is this guy hurt? what's going on.
But I have
the
more
mysterious
questions,
absence
Mike.
in London.
I have
Julio Jones isn't there.
I have
I mean, Julio Jones missed a lot of time, and Calvin Ridley was dynamic. We had a conversation about the Falcons' offense a few weeks ago. I would take Calvin Ridley today over Julio Jones. Well, today is a little bit loaded because I don't know if I'm ever going to see Calvin Ridley play football again. I assume so. But Calvin Ridley was a better wide receiver by the time Julio Jones departed.
But maybe there were more guys in the NFL dealing with mental illness than what we thought, and so it's more acceptable now because they're understanding of it. Like, hey, it's okay if you have to leave me. I've been through it as well, and so perhaps we were off, right?
But when you're saying more understandable, it's not shocking that Calvin Ridley has just put up his hand and said, "I can't deal with this. I'm leaving in the middle of the season." It's not like you're seeing it all over the league. Like, however acceptable or understandable you think it is, I'm still surprised to see a guy raise his hand and say, "Nope, I'm the number one receiver on this team." You saw it in watching too much of that Atlanta game. All they have is throw to Pitts. Throw to Pitts,
right.
Throw to Pitts, throw to Pitts.
But you're seeing it in sports where Osaka is walking away from her sport at the height of her powers.
Yeah,
you are seeing
individual sports where you're responsible
that's
for
fair.
only yourself is a totally different pressure.
Kevin Love did also leave a game. We didn't know what was going on. The stigma is starting to whittle away some, but it's still very stigmatized.
I think it's significant. You mentioned Osaka, and Simone Biles to me was a watershed moment where the biggest star in the history of gymnastics is recusing herself during the Olympics, the biggest event. If you're a football player who's hidden his mental challenges, you look at that and you go, "Wow, Simone Biles, I need to check myself." And I think we're going to see more and more of this. The Lane Johnsons, the Calvin Ridleys. I think it's going to become more and more common for mental health breaks during seasons.
Talking about it publicly is several exit ramps before. The pressure of the huddle to be there for the guy next to you. Osaka's affecting her sport and Osaka. Biles was playing she was competing in team competition, so it became country and team as well. The reason I'm bringing it up in this sport is, and maybe Calvin Ridley will be an indicator, but it's uncommon in this sport. It's one thing. It was stunning.
It's the ultimate team sport.
It was stunning enough for me to watch Jimmy Johnson, Jay Glazer, Mike Strahan, and Terry Bradshaw try to talk about it.
Right.
It's another thing entirely for a guy who is counted on by that team and feels the pressure and the burden of that to raise his hand and say, "My mind's not right," in a sport where guys are taking shots because their bodies are in pain. Like, I want to make stated clear, I do think it's strong. I do think that good for Calvin Ridley. I don't think it's just going to be understandable in the culture of that violent sport. I think there are going to be a lot of obstacles before the next guy is willing to raise his hand in the games that matter that much week to week and gives up his paycheck. I don't think it's going to be the most common thing.
There is going to be a lot of toughen up. There already is. But the thing is, Calvin Ridley, if you look at the timeline, did try to tough it out. He did try to play through it. They went to London. He skipped that game. They had the bye week. He played against Miami, caught a touchdown, but didn't look like Calvin Ridley of last year. Struggled in the passing game a little bit, and then just decided, I tried to give it a go. I can't. I'm not my best self right now.
I know it's an individual sport, but Marty Fish's story is an amazing story where the man could not get out of his car, could not play against Roger Federer. And it's an individual sport. He had reached the pinnacle of his sport, the match he had been waiting for his entire life. And because of what he was going through mentally, could not get out of the car to play the biggest match of his life. And so I wonder what the reaction will be, both from within the team and outside the team, if we arrive at a Super Bowl where one of the best players says, "Hey, you know what? The anxiety is so
We've
bad,
seen it
I
before,
can't
though.
play," with Barrett Robbins. I wonder what the reaction would be now.
His teammates
Right.
crushed him in
Right.
the locker room after
Yes.
the game. He had a bipolar meltdown
Yeah.
and went drinking all weekend in Mexico and still struggles with it the way that Delonte West is struggling with it, where he's getting arrested claiming he's better at basketball than LeBron James and that he's Jesus Christ as his life. And a lot of people have tried to help Delonte West so much, and he's clearly unwell.
And Barrett Robbins was a center, right? He was a center. I think the reaction would be different now, but imagine if it's a wide receiver, a skill position
But
guy.
you don't have to.
Before the biggest game ever and says, hey, you know what? Mentally, I'm not right. Can't do it.
What I would say to you guys is after Calvin Ridley says none of your business, we have learned you guys really don't like the media. The media in general has a very bad Q rating. When Calvin Ridley says to the media, none of your business, I'm guessing most people in most circumstances like hearing person X tell the media, none of your business. But I got a bunch of questions about,
Does he have to answer
no,
them,
but
though?
maybe it's not, maybe it is not any of my business, but when your contract pays you to be a professional person who gets paid to show up, and now you are saying, I can't work, I ask you, the audience, I ask everyone talking about this today, I ask you this question, what is our business there? Is he allowed to take fame on his terms and be like, you know what, I just can't do it, please mind my privacy or mind your business?
I think this is such a difficult thing to talk about, and sometimes you're experiencing things and you don't know how to articulate them, what it is you're going through. It's tricky. It's a tricky one.
I think he'd be pushing away an ally if he just said, well, I have personal matters. I don't know the tone of how he said none of your business. He did say that he was out for a personal matter. The second he cites mental health, he would get nothing but understanding and respect from the media. In terms of allies around him, I'm sure he has allies in that locker room, but the media would be so understanding.
He
of
must
that.
not feel that way if it's mind your business, though,
I
Mike,
mean,
because
he could be-
there
this
is
is-
tone. There
yeah.
is. I'm reading it. I didn't hear it. I'm reading it. But mind your business doesn't get, none of your business or mind your business doesn't get said without tone.
If he's going something, particularly if he's going something for the first time in his life, you could look at a lot of things that he says and scratch your head at it, because someone might be manic in that situation and not recognize their own behavior as they're just learning about a new part of themselves.
But this is where I'm telling you, Mike, this is the spot right there. Well, do you want to normalize it? And I'm not talking to Calvin Ridley here. I'm just talking about how we talk about it, because I'm watching on that pregame show and they were just talking about it. They weren't actually talking about it. What Mike just said, manic, bipolar, you don't know where you are, who you are. You don't recognize yourself. You think you're bulletproof because you're on the high end of bipolar, or you think you're suicidal because you're on the low end of bipolar, and you don't recognize yourself.
This is speculative. I'm saying, like, manic can be bipolar. Manic can just also be like, oh, I can't stand by the actions of who I was when I was going.
I'm not diagnosing him. I'm just saying, when I see Richard Sherman behaving what seemed like out of character and then apologizing profusely as his family stands by his side,
Right.
I wonder where, because Kevin Love said panic attacks and humanized it. When we talk about this stuff, the details, to normalize it, the details have to be spoken plainly. Like, they have to, you need some of these
Easier
details.
said than done, though,
no,
right?
I know, and I'm not saying it is
Right.
any of our business as it relates specifically to Calvin Ridley. I'm just telling you, are we going to talk about it? Like, for real talk about it? Or are we just going to keep inching into the conversation very slowly and saying, well, it feels good to talk about my feelings. It feels good. Or are we going to have the conversation about where mental health becomes such a detriment that you need to choose walking away from football because X, Y, Z, this is where I am mentally? How much are we entitled to is what I'm asking the audience and asking everybody listening to this.
I think it's entirely a personal decision. I don't need to know what someone's going through. I don't think, like, if they want to open up and help, destigmatize it, that's fine. But that's not someone's burden to do that who's going through it. I think that's the burden of other people who are witnessing people go through mental health to help destigmatize. Like, the burden should not be on Calvin Ridley to explain himself and what he's going through to make other people have empathy for him.
Echo that sentiment. And Calvin Ridley didn't outline what he was going through. Maybe he's still trying to figure out what he's going through.
He might
right
not
now.
know. That's
If
what I was trying to say.
If he
Right.
came out and said, I have, excuse me, $5 fine. I have anxiety. I have depression. There are people that, even in sports media, that can weigh in on their own personal experiences and continue to normalize the conversation. But he's decided to keep it entirely private. I don't know if that's the case within that locker room. I don't know what steps the Falcons took after that game in London to to tend to his needs. A lot of NFL teams have resources that they didn't have a couple of years ago. But when they come out with such a blanket statement that doesn't give any detail, you just have to put your hands up and respect the space, I think.
I would think part of the healing for a mental health issue is being open about it. I would think that's part of the solution is Lane Johnson not saying I'm missing 2 or 3 weeks by some made up ankle tweak, but because I need the time off for my own mental health. I would have to think that's a healing thing to do.
Yeah, but you decide who you want to be open to, discuss it with. You don't have to discuss it with complete strangers and please the media. You decide that on your own, right? With something this serious.
Yeah, I think
you talk to a psychiatrist, you talk to your loved ones, you talk to your family, you talk to people you trust. They certainly don't need to speak to us about it.
No, to the media, you're right. But by extension, I think fans are willing to be very open and receptive to this kind of a thing. I don't think fans are receptive to what Ben Simmons is doing, but I think fans are very receptive to Calvin Ridley. If he comes out and says, I got a big weight on me,
well, wait a
and
minute.
I need
Ben
to get rid of it.
Simmons' last statements on this front or I can't deal with this. Now, you can question it from whichever angle you want, but his last statement on this, after all of the other obstacles were put in there that now make people form what their opinions are on Ben Simmons, he went to his teammates and said, I cannot mentally do this right now. That is what he said.
He did after a time, but initially it was just, I want to be traded, I refuse to play, but before it got to that.
This is how I want to discuss this with you guys, though, because on addiction and sobriety, recovering addicts do often get relief from sharing their story, helping others, make people feel less alone. When you guys say all of this should be up to the individual, and I agree with you, it should be, but you're not really talking about it then in ways that normalize it or humanize it, and to each his own. I'm not here to say that I deserve all of your private pain. But if you want to be an advocate, if you want to be an activist, if you want to be what DeMar DeRozan and Kevin Love did in terms of normalizing this, I remember talking about this with Keon Dooling, Stugotz, because you mentioned Marty Fish. We're going to talk to him in a South Beach session about some of this stuff, that match in particular, in the coming month. And we're also going to, Meadowlark Media is doing a project that we'll tell you more about later that involves the Penn State sports scandal of our lifetime and the damage that sexual abuse left on one kid after everyone left, the cameras left, all justice, quote unquote, was meted out. Joe Paterno died, and there was no real healing. So if what you're saying is we're ready for this conversation, then one of the things you have to be ready for is, hey, I was sexually abused. Like Keon Dooling talks about this stuff, and it really damaged me in ways that are profound, and I don't know that men in sports are there yet. There's been a lot of progress made on that front, but addicts have arrived in a place, again, generalizing, but can talk about this to help others. We're not quite there yet in the way we talk about this. We're still talking about it.
But maybe eventually Calvin Ridley will be that guy. But Dan, his obligation right now is to himself, to heal himself first, to figure out what exactly it is that he's feeling. And then maybe he'll be the guy to articulate it correctly.
Oh, no, but he hasn't.
And we can have the conversation. Someone, I would imagine, along the way is going to be able to articulate, hey, this is what I'm going through on a daily basis. Well, we'll be able to have that conversation. I just don't know if it will be Ridley.
Well, but Ridley hasn't put himself out there as an advocate for this. He seems very, very reluctant.
Yes.
But you mentioned Osaka, and I tie it back to what it is that Cody just said about Simmons. Well, he did it this way, the wrong way, with trades and stuff at the beginning. Well, so did Osaka. Like, Osaka has bothered plenty of people with the way that she's doing it, no matter how much support she is getting, because she has the audacity to then show up dressed up at the Met Gala. And then there are plenty of people who are like, well, wait, what happened to Depressed? What happened to get the cameras away from me? It ain't quiet.
No.
Like you guys say, the media is going to applaud, and maybe the media was, but we started here with me telling you, people listening to this kind of hate the media and think the media is too liberal. And there's a whole division in this country based on people who think the media is lying to them and doesn't like how political and racial and biased the media is.
You got into a little bit of that, in particular, the optics of presumably acting normally in air quotes, when your life is in a bit of peril. Rob Lowe talked about this. To I appear like I'm an extrovert, but I'm truly introverted. I have anxiety when I go out, but people expect a certain thing of me. It's very hard for someone that has never been directly impacted by mental health struggles or indirectly by someone close in their family to wrap their brain around someone saying, I don't have time to talk to the media after a tennis match, but I'll take photos dressed to the nines in front of that very same media at the Met Gala. Stop trying to apply what is your perception of common logic to these things.
But
it's totally intangible.
But this is how you normalize
That's why
it.
Dan wants the conversation.
This is how you
Right.
normalize it and how you humanize it. And again, I am with everything. I'm not going to be out here saying, "Hey, Ridley, your pain. You got to give it to me. You got to give it to the grief eater. Grief eater needs the pain." But if you want to have this conversation in a way that people can understand
I don't
with
think they will.
compassion,
No.
Osaka or Ben Simmons or anybody, but I'm guessing a whole lot of sports fans, anytime this makes an appearance in a time that's inconvenient, it's going to be like, "Oh, really? Now your mental health is a problem, Ben Simmons. Now, after everything else that you've done, that would indicate." It would indicate mental frailty, Stugotz, like in a way that we've rarely seen. Doesn't want to shoot. Basketball player doesn't want to shoot. What is going on with his mind? Now you got to do it a way I like.
But
you
I
got to
don't-
do it the way that I prefer.
I don't think that people, excuse me, unless you understand, I know
$5.
that's $5. My
Yeah.
God, where's Mike's $5?
I
He
put-
said $5.
All right, but where
I put
is
one-
it? I mean,
truthfully-
saying it and putting it down on the table are two very
Right.
different things.
Yeah, I don't
Here's
agree.
my
Put
five
Put it
ski.
in the fine bucket. I only had $1.
I was
so
going to say,
go
people aren't going to understand even if it's explained. Hey, press conference, I get anxiety. I just do. I can't explain it. I don't know what happens to me. I go to the Met Gala, I'm totally comfortable. People will never be able to understand it unless they've been through it. They'll never be able to fully understand what that feels like. And I'm not certain she could properly articulate
Stugotz, but
it.
the bridge gets gulfed by the talking about it, the humanization, the normalization. That's fine. Some people are going to set out compassion. Some people are going to have limits on what their empathy can be. But in order to get them to understand it, droplets here and there. But Simone Biles starting a conversation. Lane Johnson talking about it. Jay Glazer and Jimmy Johnson talking about it. Michael Strahan not knowing that his friend had a darkness in his life for 30 years because men conceal it.
even if people don't want to label it as mental health, I think anybody listening to my voice right now would acknowledge that they have had good days and bad days. They may describe it as moody. Who knows what they describe it as? But when you're struggling with mental health, you'll have good days and bad days. And also, you don't know what the person did to their body to make it appear like it was a good day. Things like alcohol and caffeine, they have adverse effects later on and actually make things like anxiety and depression worse. But if you're smiling in front of photogs at the Met Gala in that moment, you have no idea what that person is doing to either self-medicate or if they're just generally riding a pretty decent vibe that day and the next morning is, air quotes, bad day.
And 90% of people suffering from mental challenges like this are allowed to do so in private, in the shadows. Whereas imagine how it exacerbates the situation if you're dealing with this and you're rich and you're famous and you're on a team and you're expected to answer these questions. Why are you missing 2 games? Well, it's none of your business. I would guess that just increases the burden on you if you're a celebrity or an athlete.
I believe there are a whole lot of people listening to this right now. Soft. The lot of you. All of you. Soft. America's gone
The lot of you.
soft. America's gone soft. You're out here pressuring Lane Johnson and Jimmy Johnson and Jay Glazer to talk about stuff. Soft. And Jimmy Johnson's not allowed to have a contrary opinion. Jimmy Johnson's not allowed after the Lane Johnson interview when
Right.
Jay Glazer, Jimmy Johnson's not allowed to say, you know what, bleep off all of you. I
Right.
would have ridden you all into the ground in pursuit of my title.
Yeah.
It's much braver to come out with your mental health struggles to the world than to sit on Twitter behind an egg avatar and call people soft.
Jimmy Johnson, have this conversation with him when he was making one of these Super Bowl runs. Hey, Michael Irvin, what, you can't play for a couple of games? You're Michael Irvin, what's wrong with you? Anything physically?
Right. Give John Gruden truth serum on this topic. See
Give a
what he
whole
thinks.
lot of people in that sport
Right.
truth
Most
I
of
serum.
don't
them
want to give
coaches,
John
yeah.
Gruden any more truth serum.
Right.
House.
The turkey with the accordion tail.
Yes,
yeah, that's
thank you.
fantastic.
Wait, hold on a
Yeah.
second. Jessica might be unfamiliar with the Publix
like Salt and Pepper Shake or Pilgrims, right? There's no Publixes where you're from before.
That's true.
The whole
there
audience
you
might
go.
be unfamiliar with that, but Cody doesn't care. Cody loves. That's
No.
why you can find Greg the Bag Rosenfels on the latest
Bag.
edition.
Yes.
You got the bag?
Of
Yeah, we got
Greg
him.
Cody
Wow.
featuring Greg Cody
It's-
Oh
podcast.
my
Yes.
God.
Go to my Greg Cody Show podcast today. We have a world exclusive with Gary the Bag Rosenfeld.
So
So
jealous.
it's wait,
Yes.
Greg. So there's these little pilgrims.
Yeah.
And they're salt and pepper shakers.
Yeah, and
you
they
can
come to
only
life.
Get them at Publix.
Yeah, they're
Adorable.
great. The best.
So adorable.
Yeah.
Yep.
You shake them and it comes out of their head.
Oh my God.
Not
You'll
weird
never
at all.
skip Thanksgiving again.
Never.
Yeah.
Yep.
I use them year round.
Mhm.
I don't like these things.
What?
They
What?
give me bad vibes.
You haven't seen you have not seen a Publix Thanksgiving
I'm
commercial.
I'm looking. Oh,
No,
I
you
haven't
need
seen
to see the
commercial.
Oh,
Yeah,
my
they're
God.
tearjerkers, those commercials.
Yeah. It's like a My Wish on ESPN.
The Pilgrim S&P, they're enjoyably creepy, those two.
Mhm. Yeah. By the way, in terms of there's no good Thanksgiving decorations, when else can you whip out a cornucopia?
There you go.
I do love a cornucopia, but only
Everyone
on Thanksgiving Day.
Put it on the poll, Guillermo. Does everyone love a cornucopia? And when do you not like whipping out a cornucopia at Le Batard Show?
Would you guys like to hear a clip of the bag on the Greg Cody Show?
A clip of the bag?
I don't want to hear a clip of the bag, but contractually we're obligated now to
Oh, yeah.
promote some of the Greg Cody Show podcast featuring Greg Cody
Yeah, with Greg Cody.
because we're not paying him. So this is the contractual.
Minor matter.
This
Yeah.
is the contractual deal we've made. So go ahead. This is you want to tell the people. You want to tell the people why it is Greg the Bag Rosenfeld is being interviewed here. What the backstory is.
Well, the backstory is
The bag story.
The backstory. we haven't spoken directly for more than 40 years. He was a guy I grew up with. We were literally next door neighbors from age 8 until I went away to college. And so we discussed growing up at 1440, our childhood, and it's a delightful interview. We also asked him, how did he get his nickname, The Bag, which thank God when I asked him, did you have a nickname as a kid? He said,
Don't give away all the
Okay.
good stuff.
Right.
Because-
I mean, jeez.
I mean, thank God,
Make
though.
people listen.
He wants to give the whole thing away. He just wants to talk about himself, which was my original point. Greg Cody is so self-involved that he does not care whether anybody knows of Publix or his Salt and Pepper Pilgrims, and he doesn't care whether anyone else cares about Greg the Bag Rosenfeld. He will pursue his selfish, narcissistic interests at every turn.
Thank you. Gary Rosenfeld and I were friends and neighbors for years growing up. I mean, we literally were next door neighbors.
You're 1440 famously. What was your address, Gary?
1430.
Oh, man.
Wow.
See, I was better by 10 digits.
Now,
How
Gary,
about that?
have you written a song about 1430?
No.
No, okay.
No. I didn't go that way.
Do you remember Villa Rose, the pizzeria in Hollywood?
Not really, no.
Okay.
This is riveting.
That's
I
the
just
whole
love
interview.
how my dad, these are so important in his life. It's just like his neighbor is just like, nope, don't give a shit.
A whole bunch of years ago, I went back. I got out of the car. I pulled the car up, and the basketball pole is still there.
So good.
If you Google map my house, you will see that basketball pole my dad put in is still there.
Dad, is there anything at 1440 that's still there? It looks like 1430 seems to be the house to beat on this block right now.
Well, my dad built the wall that's still there.
What you got, 1430?
I want to replace Greg
Who
Cody
wins?
with Greg the Bag Rosenfeld Tuesdays. Is what I want to do. We'll get to Greg Cody's Back in My Day in a second. Rough weekend for Chris Cody. A lot of people are making fun of him for changing allegiances to the Chargers, and since he did so, they've lost by a combined score of 61-30. They've lost both games. Justin Herbert has played his 2 worst games of the season, and Stan Van Gundy also has gotten 16,000 likes, basically condemning your entire spirit when he writes, loading your groceries into your car and then leaving the shopping cart in the parking lot rather than taking 1 damn minute to put it back tells everyone how selfish you are.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, of course the selfish person would think it's
I mean-
ridiculous.
No. There are people who have jobs at Publix to go get those things
Oh,
and
no,
put them
this
back,
again.
and then
That's
you give
right.
them a tip. That's what you do.
No,
You
you
do
put it-
not.
Oh,
You do not
boy.
give anybody a tip.
I get out of there as quickly as possible, but most people give them a tip.
No, most
I mean,
people do not.
Well, they should.
No,
I
most
mean,
people-
shame on them.
Oh, how dare you?
Look, I've kind of come around on this. I will now walk it to a cart corral if it's near me. But the people that claim that they walk all the way back into the store, you're all lying. I
Right.
don't see any. When do you ever see anybody pushing an empty cart into the? See, everyone says they do, but you never see it. Tell me. I want you to take a video. Everybody, the whole internet out there. Next time you see somebody pushing an empty cart back into the store, video that. No.
This whole argument predates when I joined the show, and I have to admit, Chris, like when I first met you, I thought you might be a little bit of a psychopath. I didn't think I was gonna like you because of this, because this
And
is
now
like
what?
the ultimate most
Because I'm
chaotic,
honest.
selfish thing a person could do.
Oh,
I was
come
at a
on.
Home
Stop
Depot.
it.
Get
Get
I
out
was
of
at a
here.
Home Depot last weekend, and
Yeah.
there were shopping carts everywhere. My first thought was, wow, the Codys have been here.
Yeah.
You couldn't even pull into a spot because every open spot had a shopping cart in it. It was
Yep.
ridiculous.
I don't
Well-
leave
You
it
put
in.
it in the corral,
Okay.
and then someone comes and gets it.
I do. I'll put them in the corral. I
That's
have come
how an
around on
orderly
that.
society is
but bef-
supposed to function.
but also-
He said the corral. He is not walking
Well, if
it
it's
all the
close
way
to
back
him.
inside
Only if
the
it's
store.
close to him, he said.
Okay,
And if
I
it's
mean,
not, I don't. And if it's
hot
not,
outside.
I don't leave it in the middle of the spot. I put it like safely at that, like where the lines meet. You know what I mean? Where no car will ever hit it. It's like a nice little safe spot.
Right.
Van Gundy's
No.
got to find something serious to get irate about. I mean, that was a ridiculous tweet. I saw it. I'm not putting a cart wrangler out of business.
Wow.
Publix, Home Depot, they have hired cart wranglers.
Correct.
Whose job is
Yep.
to go around the parking lot.
And wrangle the
And
car.
I don't like
wrangle
my
the
allies on
carts.
this.
Yep.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, but don't you want to make their job a little bit easier?
Yeah.
If I make their job too easy, they don't have it.
It's
Oh,
great.
That's not how
Right.
any of this
Not-
works.
No.
That's untrue.
It is
And
how it
also, that
works.
is
Why
not their
would you
only
need
job.
the cart wrangler if everyone's bringing the cart back themselves? That's Greg's point.
This
Right.
is
Right.
your allies,
Right. You're
Chris.
going to put people out of work.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean,
congratulations, you fixed unemployment. We'll just
I
all
love
leave our
that.
shit everywhere so
I
we can
love-
hire more
Can't
people to
believe-
clean up after us.
I can't believe they think this is noble.
Greg-
there's a nobility to
No,
it.
there is.
Yeah,
Greg,
there
Greg,
is.
Greg
No.
Cody,
We're saving jobs.
Such
Greg
thing,
Cody
no.
is trying to file
No.
his selfishness under I'm helping the economy.
Well, more than one time, I have been tipped a nod and a wink by a cart wrangler.
Oh, they tipped you.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Retrieving
Incredible.
a shopping
Thank
cart
you
off
for
left.
leaving that cart
Wow.
out there.
That's
Yes.
exactly right.
Yes.
Because they have a job now.
They should
Incredible.
give you $5.
Right.
It's just
Yeah.
annoying. The self-righteousness about this is what annoys me. The people they like to throw stones like they're perfect. It's okay. I know that you're not actually like people like Billy.
Do perfect people throw stones?
You are not walking that thing all the way into the
This is
store.
what I'll tell you. I do, but at the same time, if I'm walking in to get a cart and I see someone ahead of me walk in with it, I'm like, let me get another one because that one's probably dirty. That one hasn't. Been
That's another
sanitized.
dangerous game right now. Publix has kind of stopped doing the whole let's clean the the
Well, they
carts
have
for
the
you.
wipes and you could do it yourself.
So that's
you
like-
just
Yeah,
get
we're
it
in
and you
Florida.
do it. Yeah.
And
Chris.
Chris,
That's the least of our problems.
Let's be honest here. Do we think
no.
Stan is
Let's
walking the cart
That's
back every
a
single
great
time?
question.
Wow.
Come on.
Great question.
He's
Why-
not doing it.
Get
Why don't
outta
you think
here.
Stan's
Right.
doing
If
it?
that cart corral's
You
like
body shaming him?
17 spots away,
I'm not
I mean,
doing anything, but he
2021.
better do it every time moving forward because he's the guy who put it out there. Now you have to live up to the expectations. Someone catch him not doing
Yeah,
it, please.
I would love that.
Can you
Please.
think
Yeah.
of someone less likely wanting to go viral than Stan Van Gundy accidentally because of a tweet?
Yeah, he's not doing that. Stan Van Hypocrite is what you're talking about.
Wow. Oh boy.
Chris, get him on the line. Let's try to talk to Stan Van Gundy about this and see if Greg Cody is willing to be this bold when Stan is
Of
here.
course I will be.
Stan Van Gundy engaged with us on our Halloween candy draft, and then I asked him, care to come on the show and discuss, and he never replied. But then he replied to someone else who replied, but not to me.
Wow.
So I have a bone to
Was
pick
it a
with him.
man he replied to?
It was a man.
Wow.
It was a man.
Wow.
Hmm.
Mm.
Thank
will
you for
tr-
pointing that out,
we will
Billy.
He
try-
also didn't seem to understand how the draft worked because once a team is gone, the M&Ms are gone. The rest of us can't draft them.
Maybe that's never mind.
Was the Almond Joy a first round draft pick? Because that would have been.
I don't think it
Oh
was
my
taken by
God.
anyone.
That would have been
No
my
one took
number one
Almond
pick.
Joy.
Oh, really?
You
I
can have it.
love the A Joy.
I don't like him.
Yeah, I do.
Nice
People were
nickname,
mad that
though.
we didn't pick
Hey, Joy.
Rolos, but I didn't pick Rolos for a reason, and that's because I have a really traumatic experience with Rolos once.
or like almond
one
misery.
Halloween.
Well, what was it?
I went trick or treating, and I did the thing where like you take all your candy out and you sort it out. I sorted it all out on the kitchen table, And then I was like, kind of like, bopping around the kitchen. I heard this noise of like water rushing through the ceiling. And I was like, what is that? And I look, the ceiling, water comes through the ceiling.
Because of Rolos.
Underneath, like the bathroom was above the kitchen table. Raw water from like the pipes starts coming through the ceiling onto my Rolos. All of my Halloween candy's ruined, but the Rolos had a direct hit. It was horrific. So I haven't been able to eat them since.
Wow. Sorry for your loss.
Yep.
Didn't you also have your bathroom like collapse on your head or something?
Yeah, that was in New York, but there was no Halloween candy in the bathroom when that
Are you
happened.
plagued? Like, do you have?
Yeah,
are
what's
you
going
haunted? Like, why do you have pieces of homes perpetually fall on you and fall apart? Like, is this a thing that happens?
I am sensing a pattern here. I've had some pretty bad luck since
Maybe
I
the
moved to
bomb threat on
Miami.
your first day should have been a sign.
Chris Cody, you mentioned that Stan Van Gundy may have been virtue signaling, and he's gotten a lot of applause.
That's what people. Whenever people tweet this, they get a lot of applause.
Well,
That's
like,
why they do it.
We should be teaching this in schools. This is the most correct thing. And then, and I don't know that Stan Van Gundy appreciates it, but maybe he does. Get their ass, King.
Oh, jeez.
Get there.
I mean, there's a cult out there that needs a leader.
Get their ass, King. We will get to Greg Cody's back in my day in a second. But Stugotz, you mentioned earlier that the Broncos are in it. They're 4-4. What are they giving up on their season for? And the Broncos have their own first-round pick, 2 second-round picks, 2 third-round picks, plus $77 million in cap space next year, which would net them Aaron Rodgers.
All right.
If they were trying to get into that
You
game.
think Aaron wants to go there with no Von
Well,
Miller,
you
without a great defense?
You can do that if you'd like, or you can ask yourself, would you trade Von Miller and 4-4 for Aaron Rodgers next season? Or the hope of it, and yes, I would. Yes, I would.
I think most people would. That's fair.
But you just entrenched yourself the other place.
I'm
where
just
you,
trying to put myself in Vic Fangio's seat, okay? No one loves a defender
Don't get too comfortable in that seat.
more than Fangs. It's a little bit hot, but no one loves a defense more than Fangs. He's a defensive-minded coach. You took away his best defender. Someone had to break that news to Vic Fangio. It had to be difficult news to break, difficult for him to absorb. And you're sitting there and you're saying, hey, I'm 4-4. The division is open, and they're taking away my best player, and we're still paying his contract. And so if you're Vic Fangio, I'm thinking you have to be upset.
Oh, well, it's good that Vic Fangio has a great proponent out
You
here.
hired him to
in
be
the-
your head coach.
In the
I mean,
national media that would say, hey, don't do what's best for the franchise and get in the Aaron Rodgers game. Let's milk the last little 7-9 or 7-10 that we can out of Von Miller. That is the kind of short-sightedness. Trying to please Vic Fangio is how Stugotz would run his NFL franchise. He would never have a quarterback, but he would please Vic Fangio.
I mean, he is 4-4, Dan, in a division that's open.
They spent all of last month losing. Like, what are you doing?
But they're coming off a win. I mean, it wasn't impressive, but a win's a win. You know?
The Miami Dolphins managed Greg Cody to lose 5 times in the month of October. One of those losses to a team that had lost 20 straight.
Right.
It is hard to lose 7 straight in that league.
The Dolphins are worse than the Jets.
They are.
Well, I'm sure this is something I hesitate to open the door on with Stugotz because I imagine he spent the last 2 days loving Mike White when he has refused to talk Jets football with me for about 7 straight seasons. And so I don't know how much ground you guys have covered in the post-game show and yesterday with Mike White coming out of nowhere to all of a sudden be like, hey, look, a guy can play quarterback for the Jets. That's odd to see.
I'm confused. I don't know what to do with it. It's the first 400-yard passing game for the Jets in 20 years. I want you to think about that. 20 years. They have not stumbled into a 400-yard passing game, the New York Jets. But I have now had 2 days to think about it, Dan, and I have reasons to be encouraged. If you think of some of the all-time great quarterbacks, okay, whether it's Brett Favre being selected in the 2nd round, Mike White was a 5th-round pick, Tom Brady being selected in the 6th round, Bart Starr in the 17th round of the NFL draft, Roger Staubach in the 16th
So
round.
he's talked himself into it. 40 years of this. Like he's talked himself into it.
I'm just saying you
No,
never
no,
know
no, you're
where
not
you're
just
going to find a
saying-
quarterback.
You're not just saying you'd never
No,
know. You're
you
saying you
never
found
know.
one. Say
Sick
it.
for a
Say
meal,
it.
found
Say it.
one
Say
in a
it.
grocery store.
Say it. Just
Speaking of grocery stores.
Say what you really feel. Don't hide behind. You've been.
I'm just saying there's a reason for hope, Dan. I don't want to dismiss that this guy could be a great quarterback because we've seen it before, and we've seen it with some of the all-time greats and the greatest of all time.
A rookie hasn't thrown for 400 yards since Cam Newton.
Yeah.
Stugotz has talked himself into Mike White is the answer. I don't know what
He
he
looks good,
what
I
he
mean.
now does with his Bengals are good take.
Right.
I don't know where that one goes because the Bengals you had winning the Super Bowl.
Well, he
last,
beat a good team, Dan.
last week.
Yeah. I mean, the Jets we're talking in terms of pairs of victories this season, the Jets have beaten the Bengals and the Titans.
Let's get your analysis though, because you have the Vikings as a top 5 power team, even though Zimmer and Cousins are both going to get run out of that town.
Yeah.
You have the Vikings as a top 5 power team. So go ahead and tell us. Let's get it on the record.
Mm-hmm.
What is Mike White? I want your take on what this is. Not reason for hope.
Right.
Not hey, somebody else was taken in a low round.
Mm-hmm.
What is it? What is knee-jerk reaction Tuesday, Stugotz, before the trade deadline saying?
I can't wait till Thursday. They have a Thursday night game. I got to give it to you right now.
I want to hear what your thoughts are. No hiding behind I can hope. What is he? What you love to knee-jerk?
Dan,
You're giving us
it's the best game a Jets quarterback has played in a long time. It was against a good team who prepared for Mike White, had an entire week to prepare for Mike White, and he still threw for 400 yards and led his team to a victory. I'm certainly not going to rule out that he could be a good, maybe great quarterback in the NFL. If you're making me decide right now, and you want me to give my opinion right now, I would just right now, based off of Sunday, I would say Mike White will end up being a top 5 quarterback of all time.
Wow.
So I've talked myself into it, yes. He's good, and I would seriously consider trading Zach Wilson. I mean,
Right.
the trade deadline.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
can get something for him.
You could.
Mike White's the future.
What could you get for him?
I have no idea.
Something. It's not for us to determine.
I mean, listen, we don't need a quarterback. We have one, Mike White. And so I don't know what you could get for Zach Wilson, but it's something I would consider if I were the Jets today.
Yeah. And if something happens, you have Flacco.
Right.
And Josh Johnson.
I mean, Mike, would you like Zach Wilson? Perhaps we get him for Odell Beckham.
Wow.
How about that?
I'll pass.
No? Okay.
You can just take Odell, though.
Mike, your quarterback. Are we going to talk about? As we're talking
About the Steelers beating the Browns? Yes.
As we are talking
I've
about,
had it. Let's have the memory of an elephant and forget all about Ben Roethlisberger crying in the playoffs.
What have you done for me lately?
the short-sightedness that sport creates, as we were talking about the mental health conversation and talking about the pressures of being your family's breadwinner or the pressures that come with being a star player, more money, more problems. Baker Mayfield, the short-sightedness of playing him physically in this condition, when he's got a torn labrum and his shoulder is broken and he feels the pressure to get to the contract because Mike White's right around the corner. The next Mike White to come take your thing is right around the corner.
Can we relax with Mike White?
No,
we can't.
No, but what
No.
my point is that
Nope.
somebody will get breathless like this about somebody,
Well, he's
and God
good.
help you if it's your coach, because they don't know either.
Yeah, they're trying to figure it out.
But what I'm saying is the analysis of this position is so crappy that we can all relax on Mike White, and yet all of a sudden here are the Jets saying, well, our quarterback position is open when that wasn't the plan a game ago.
I don't know if quarterback analysis is crappy. There's some really good quarterback analysis that would, all is which to say, all that great data that's available on Baker Mayfield, all the tape that's out there, and he is an incredibly strange prospect. You just need to continue increasing the sample before you realize that's just who he is. It's really hard to do that when he has a broken shoulder right now. But all parties, Baker and the Browns, maybe even a little less so than Baker, kind of have to have him out there to make an evaluation because there's a huge decision they have to make.
It's so fascinating, though,
It
that
is.
your decision gets made, that all of the pressure gets put on Baker Mayfield. Hey, let's make the assessment on whether you're our future, and let's do it with your totally broken body that we keep breaking more every week since you've been in the league. And when you got in the league, we're all wondering, like we do with Lamar Jackson and anyone that's small, well, how's that going to hold up in the league once it starts breaking?
Mike, was there an offer made to Baker before the season? Weren't people saying Baker should have taken care of this before the season because they were worried about this?
I'm sure an offer of sort was made, but they didn't come to terms because the two sides were far apart. He wanted something in line, which
Right.
is the vogue thing in the NFL's.
He gambled on himself, and he's losing.
Right now,
Yes,
it would appear
right.
so.
He's
Yeah.
better off. What I'm telling you that I find, this is the part that I find fascinating at the center point of the pressure cooker of that sport. He's better off sitting because playing in that condition, Stugotz,
Right.
is going to produce that game.
I
He-
don't think so. I don't think he's better off sitting. If he sits right now and says, "That's it, that's my sample,"
if he
ain't
sit,
getting that.
Mike, if he,
He
sit,
played well
But
on
Dan, that's
Sunday.
that,
Mike,
that's him.
well enough.
He's saying, "Here's my resume. Pay me. This is it.
if-
This is the resume."
what I'm saying is, if he sits, he can't be bad.
Yeah, but if he plays,
He also
he has a
can't be
chance to
good.
be great. You know?
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
Like
Not in that condition.
his.
Not in that condition. He's
He was
not
hurt last year, Dan.
Mike, he's not going to be a great quarterback in that condition. I'm not sure if he's great healthy. You're not sure if he's great healthy.
I don't know. I've seen him. I've explained bad play from him away with saying he's had cracked ribs and he's overcome. He was throwing the ball really well on Sunday. I mean, in terms of zip, he was throwing the ball well before he broke his shoulder against Arizona.
But guys, if you
in terms
leave
of
the
zip.
resume right here, right now, and say this is it, there's no way the Browns are going to pay him what he wants to be paid, Dan. The only way they will is if he plays.
And there's flatly no way the Browns compete if he sits, too. There's just none. I've seen Case Keenum in action. He got a lot of credit for winning a game in which he made the disastrous mistake of fumbling at the one. They were just lucky enough to jump on top of it. Case Keenum can't throw beyond 6 yards. The Browns, with a Baker Mayfield with one arm, are better than they are with Case Keenum.
I don't want to argue in the margins about whatever it is
Sure.
that you believe listening to this Baker Mayfield is. What I'm asking you to consider as you listen to this
Mhm.
is make it your job and make it your boss assessing what's that person's value. Now make it that violent and dangerous a sport and have you go out there in some condition that is not you at 100% value. Make all the assessments on who you are as an employee and how great you can be and how much future you have in a sport that eats up your future and your body like that. Have him keep playing in the condition that he is and see if he doesn't become Carson Wentz where something's broken every weekend because you can't play that way.
So there's still
I
an
think-
air of mystery around him as to whether or not he can be great if he stops playing right
all,
now.
All I'm saying to the
Yes.
audience is I want you to
Yeah.
consider the assessments, how they're made on your value, how imperfect they are, and how frustrated you would be trying to play through injury and not have as an excuse because people are just going to say, well, you're not that good, not taking into consideration a torn labrum and a broken shoulder.
But they know him the best inside that organization. So how about gutsy gamer being there for your team, playing through pain, even with the contract on the line?
They had
you
to
know?
they had to keep him out of that game last Thursday.
Right.
Because the one that wants to play more than anybody right now is Baker Mayfield. That being said, you can't absolve the Browns of responsibility here. It's a very difficult decision. They have to lean on their doctors. I think Dan's ultimately going to be right, but I also think you have to apply that context to when you're trying to evaluate Baker Mayfield. Look, he had one shoulder this entire season when we were trying to make evaluation. We know we have a gamer. We know he had some good performances. Also, he's been able to overcome injuries in his past and have very good second halves of the season. For whatever reason, Baker Mayfield is always better in the second half of the season. So you let it ride for a little bit more. And Dan, if history is any indicator, you're probably going to be right on this. His body's going to end up breaking, especially with an injury to his right tackle.
In fairness to the Browns, it's not that uncommon for a quarterback to play with a non-throwing shoulder injury. I mean, it happens.
A lot of quarterbacks are able to play through a torn labrum. I don't know exactly. I don't have the list in front of me, so I don't know exactly to which level.
Right.
I know that Baker Mayfield on Sunday was an upgrade over Case Keenum. I also know that we're not rolling the quarterback out and making big-time throws anymore because all the big explosive passing plays in that offense came with Baker Mayfield on the move, rolling out. And I don't necessarily think that's something that the defense can simply take away from you. You decide where the pocket is. You move the pocket. So if they're not rolling him out to protect him from his shoulder, then you have to ask yourself, what are we doing? If you're healthy enough to be out there and playing, then we got to play the same exact offense because this is diluted version.
Crazy. That's what you're saying is crazy because I saw how he got hurt. And it's J.J. Watt spiked him the way that you would a football. And that's
well, because a fourth string tackle was out there.
But the way Baker Mayfield, you can't ask him if he's begging to play. You can't ask him to not be Carson Wentz, to not be guy who's going to roll out and get injured again, because imagine playing that sport now with a broken shoulder. You guys are like, torn labrum, broken shoulder, quarterbacks play through that. Okay, now roll him out. And now have somebody 300 pounds spiking him.
Yeah, did you see the harness that he was playing with, Dan? It straps his left arm to his body. Like, he can move his arm below the elbow.
Gutsy kid.
And he can. You can't question
What is it?
toughness.
But what does it buy you? What is gamer gutsy toughness? What does it actually buy you when you guys are saying
I mean,
he's
Dan,
got to
almost
play?
bought him a
Dan,
win. He made the throw to Jarvis Landry twice, and Jarvis
Mike,
Landry betrayed him.
What it buys you is 10 points lost to Pittsburgh. Now you're 500 again in this season of great expectations.
That
made
was
the
last
throws.
week,
He
but
made-
perhaps going forward, it buys him everything. Playing with that kind of injury and playing well.
He made a throw that was a little high to Austin Hooper. Hooper, that would have gone for a touchdown. Hooper's got to catch that ball. He made the throws to Jarvis Landry. Jarvis Landry gets him inside the red zone, fumbles it. He makes a fourth down throw to Jarvis Landry to put them in position to finally be situationally great in football. Jarvis Landry drops it. So what I'm telling you is what it buys you is we have the result of them losing and the point total. And I'm telling you, according to Pro Football Focus, in my eyes, he was let down by his teammates out there. And if that's a Baker Mayfield, if that's the effort that I'm going to get from him week in, week out, I'll take that over Case Keenum, even if it sacrifices further injury and an even more difficult decision right now, because the Browns have a really, really, really tough one, especially when you apply the context of they've been searching for someone just that good for 20 years.
This from Danny Kelly, as Greg Cody and Stugotz have talked themselves into Mike White being a great quarterback, possibly an all-timer, possibly Bart Starr and Tom Brady. Mike White threw for 405 yards, but his 4.2-yard average depth of target finished dead last. White consistently dumped the ball off and took what the defense gave him. He distributed the ball to his playmakers, let them do the rest. 63% of his total yards came after the catch. I suspect now that they have some game planning for Mike White, the league might catch up to Mike White.
Yak.
Ron McGill is with us as he joins us every Tuesday. Before we get to that, though, I want to include him in the conversation we were having, because while Stugotz during the break was talking himself into Mike White being an all-timer, he also said he's going to dedicate the rest of his days, Mike, is what he said, to finding out where Stan Van Gundy does his groceries so that one day he could catch him videotaping his hypocrisy, not returning a shopping cart because Stan Van Gundy is selfish and he is virtue signaling on Twitter.
What I said exactly was, if I lived near Stan Van Gundy, which I don't, although I live closer to Stan than I do to these studios, if I live
you
closer
said till the end of your days. Don't correct what you said,
No, okay,
because
right.
he feels like he's going to get roped into actually
no.
doing it now.
Right. Well, I would spend, if I'm someone who lives in that neighborhood, okay, I would figure out where it is that Stan buys his groceries. I would spend the rest of my days in the parking lot waiting for Stan Van Gundy to do his groceries and not bring the cart back. And then I would pop out of my car and be like, gotcha.
If Meadowlark wants to pay for it, I'll go. I'll do
Yep.
it. Recon mission.
It'd be a fun
Send me
way
up.
to spend the rest of your days.
I'll be on the phone. I'll just follow
Yeah.
Stan around all of Orlando.
I'm glad we've already bailed Stugotz out of something that lacks all sorts of follow through.
What's
If history is any indicator.
What is that?
You putting in effort.
All I
Oh.
wanted to do was welcome
Thank
in
you.
Ron McGill and ask him the question. Ron, 100% of the time, do you return your shopping cart?
When you say return it, I put it into the slot in the parking lot, where all the shopping carts go. I don't bring it back up to the store, but they have like a Costco, you have the little slots. Yeah, I don't leave it in the parking lot. Nothing pisses me off more than when I go into a spot and there's a damn cart there.
What if that cart corral's like 7 rows away? Come on, Ron. Be honest, Ron.
I do it. I do it all the time, guys. At the very least, I put it up on the median. I don't leave it in the freaking parking lot.
That's what I do.
People call you evil for that, Ron. Be careful.
I've heard
putting it up on the median.
Yeah, people
I've
judge.
heard-
People. Everyone likes to act like they walk their cart back into the store. Ron, there's a lot of glass houses
I've never
around
walked
here.
my cart back into a store. Never done that. But I never leave the cart like next to the car or in an adjacent empty parking spot. That pisses me off.
I've actually stopped putting it on the median because I heard cart wranglers dislike that even more than you just leaving it next to your car in a parking
Yeah,
space.
because it's harder for them to take it off the median. It's much easier to put it in the parking lot. So what the cart wranglers are telling me is that it's more important what's easier for them than it is for the customer to the store. That's what the cart wrangler's telling me.
There's a sweet spot though in the corner of the parking spot where like
No,
four,
there isn't. No, there isn't.
No, where
No, there
four.
isn't.
You guys
Correct.
are not hearing me. Where 4 spots meet, you're not affecting where any car would
But the
be.
ground has to be level, Chris.
Right.
Right.
It is a lot of places I go.
Well, then it's impossible to get it out because if the 4
Well, then,
cars parked
the other
there,
thing,
you can't
too,
get it out.
I hate the people who they'll do the thing and instead of actually putting it into the alley with all the carts, they kind of push it so it goes in on its own and it never really makes it and it bumps and it kind of rolls back out.
It's
and
a
they don't
fun
do anything
game,
about
though.
it.
It's a fun game.
You're just bad at that game, Ron.
Greg, what do you have for Ron McGill this week?
Ron, this is a headline from NBCnews.com. Bat sweeps in for upset victory in New Zealand's prestigious Bird of the Year contest. I'm curious, who is Ron McGill's Bird of the Year?
Oh, it's got to be the harpy eagle. There's no question about that. The harpy eagle is the most amazing bird on the face of this planet. There's not even a contest.
I think it's overrated. You talk.
Oh my God,
way
Billy!
too
What does it even
much.
look like? What does it look like, Billy? What does it look
I'm
like?
tired of hearing about it. I saw a pic. Don't Ron. I went to Zoo Miami and I saw a picture of you with a
It's like an
harpy
eagle.
eagle and a cutout, and I took a picture next to it.
Okay, it's the most incredible bird on the face of the planet, and no
Funny
one's gonna.
first name, though.
But it's your bird of the year every year. I mean, there are no
Yeah,
other
come
My
on.
birds.
bird
I
of the
mean,
century. It's
Really?
my bird of the millennium.
Right.
Okay.
What's with
That's it.
harpy? Why is that? What does that even mean?
Yeah, what does it
harpy?
even mean?
Harpy means snatcher, because the indigenous people used to believe it came down and snatched their children, which is not true, of course.
That's horrible.
But it is
Wow.
an incredibly powerful bird.
What a notorious bird
Yeah.
you're supporting.
Right.
Toucan's better
No,
than
no,
that.
Child
it doesn't
snatcher.
Bird
snatch
of the
children.
century, right?
Kidnapper.
Well,
Steals your kids.
now-
I mean,
What it does snatch, and I know makes some people upset, one of its favorite food is sloths. And I know a lot of people love sloths.
Ron.
Low hanging fruit there.
Well, no, it's high hanging because there are sloths way up in the tree. They
Uh.
feed in the canopy up over 100 feet.
Canaries never kidnapped anyone.
Chris, come in here. Let's talk about your dad. Your dad he's very
worst.
pleased with yourself. Your dad.
He's doing the
brings-
show for himself.
he
He's
brings
just talking to
himself
himself.
so much pleasure.
I had no idea sloth was a tree animal.
It is. It's arboreal. It spends the only time it comes out of the tree about once a week is to poop.
This
Poop
is-
on the floor, but that's the only time it comes out of the tree.
Chris, what I love about your father is he goes to just a cliche, useless, low-hanging fruit that is factually very inaccurate. And the expert corrects him, and your dad just howls at how wrong he was.
Right. Isn't that sloth is one of the 7 evil sins, isn't it?
That's right.
mhm.
Thank
It
you,
is.
Billy.
The
Yep.
7 deadly sins.
Yeah,
Something like
sloth.
that, yeah.
Mhm.
Thank you,
Where did
Billy.
you get that from? What piece
The
of
movie Seven, of course.
Right.
Remember?
Right.
The first murder was
it's-
sloth.
I'm gonna. Is it the Bible? Where'd the 7 deadly
think so,
sins
yeah.
come from? I don't think it was from the movie 7.
Sloth and avarice. Those are the only 2 I remember. Sloth and avarice.
Greed, gluttony.
They're
what
not in
are-
the Bible, but
what-
it is like a Christian teaching thing.
What
There you go.
what are the 7? What are they? Greed, gluttony.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And not running into
Wrath.
the end zone for your fantasy
Right.
team when
Not-
you have a late lead.
Not returning
Pride.
the shopping carts.
Pride is one of
Slothing.
them.
Yeah.
Sloth.
Pride.
Yes,
Pride is
sloth.
one.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
You guys
Pride, huh?
you pick
Yes.
stuff right out of the air. You just grab stuff out of the air. Like I don't know where this comes
Like a
from.
harpy eagle.
Yep.
Vanity.
Grabs your kid.
Is vanity is
Self-obsession.
one of put it on the poll, Guillermo at Batard show. Are you surprised that McGill is a fan of a child snatching bird?
It's not a child snatcher. That's the myth. Then you perpetuate the myth, guys. You got to stop that. Okay. The harpy eagle is an incredible bird. It does feed on sloths, but it helps keep the sloth population healthy. Survival of the fittest. You see, it keeps that balance in the
that's right.
rainforest.
Well, be
This is
fitter,
one of the most-
kid, and you won't be snatched by a
That's
giant
right.
bird.
So for the poll, is Ron a fan of kidnapping?
Yes. Yeah.
A kidnapping
Yes.
bird.
Yes.
A fan of kidnapping bird. I wanted to ask you, I read a story, Ron. You told us that story about the goldfish and the effects of the environment, that if you throw a goldfish in a regular lake, all of a sudden a goldfish will grow to a much larger size. And I was surprised to read, though perhaps I shouldn't have been, in Africa, that elephants are now being
Tuskless.
born without tusks, just as an adaptation, a survival adaptation to hunters taking their tusks. And I don't understand how the animal kingdom can evolve like that in survival of the fittest. Like how can that happen?
Let me explain that to you, Dan. What happens is, okay, let's say I'm a tall guy, okay? I'm gonna have, my wife is a fairly tall woman. We're gonna have tall children, okay? If they want to take all my children out because they don't want any more tall people, only the short people with the short people genes are going to be the ones passing those genes on. So what they've done is they've eliminated the big tuskers that carry the gene for tusks. And the animals that are surviving are the animals with the smaller tusks. The smaller tusks that you have, the more you're likely to survive and pass that gene on. And as generation after generation continues, what happens is you eventually have an animal that has no tusks. That is also happening with rattlesnakes, believe it or not. Where these big rattlesnake roundups are, there are rattlesnakes that are evolving not to have rattles. Why? Because the ones that rattle get hurt, get caught, get killed in the rattlesnake roundups. So the gene that's passed on is the one that doesn't rattle or doesn't have a rattle. So you see, it's just selection for survival. It's not survival of the fittest. What it is, it's selection to adapt to an environment. If I was the tallest guy in the desert and, the predator out there sees me right away and takes me out right away, you take a little guy like Stugotz, he's going to live longer, okay? Because he's smaller. He can hide in the desert. And his genes will be the one to be able to pass on. You adapt to the environment. So that's what's happened to elephants. The big tuskers have been removed. The gene for the big tusker, therefore, is not passed on to the next generation. The ones that have the smaller tusks survive, and so on.
Ron, do you agree that the Fleetwood Mac song "Tusk" is very, very underrated?
That's a good one.
I think most Fleetwood Mac songs are underrated. I think
that's
Fleetwood
a great song.
It is a great song.
And a good take from Ron McGill.
Put it on the poll, Guillermo. Are most Fleetwood Mac songs underrated? Mike, you have a question for Ron McGill?
I do, Dan. It's about a monkey that had to be pried off of a poor child. I don't know if you've been following the news, allegedly. Now, this is how we got to know Ron McGill as a guest on this show. There was a gorilla that ripped someone's face off, and we sprang into action.
Not a gorilla.
It was
a chimpanzee.
Oh,
chimpanzee.
My apologies.
That's a fine.
Sorry. I guess you're right.
I mean,
Different
a gorilla,
species.
it's a different thing. I mean, a ripping of the
Totally
face
different
off,
primate.
ripping of the face off is terrible.
That's my mistake.
But a chimpanzee doing it seems somehow less terrible than a gorilla
I'm
doing
sorry.
It's just
I'm
$10.
sorry. I made a mistake. So stupid sometimes. Just.
Still waiting
So,
for
a
your
monkey-
previous $5.
I put in one. I don't carry cash. Do you take Venmo?
Sure.
All right. Cool.
How is it going straight to Stugotz? Does Stugotz take Venmo?
Given how often Greg pulls that
I
$5
know.
bucket helmet, I should just Venmo Greg.
I'm
right?
overseeing
I'm
the
waiting.
fines now, Dan. We discussed this while you were away.
Oh,
Should
wait a
people
minute.
should people have pet monkeys? Is my question.
Forgive
No.
me.
It's a capuchin.
Quick answer. No. The only time you should have a quote unquote pet monkey is they have some monkeys that are trained to assist handicapped people. That can open the refrigerator, can bring you a drink, can provide you with, things that you need to survive day to day. These are assisting animals. These are not pets.
But this alleged story, it was allegedly an emotional support monkey, and it was actually a capuchin. What can you tell us about those?
Okay, capuchin monkeys are, typical the organ grinder monkey, the one you commonly see with the organ grinders. They're a fairly common monkey. They're various species of capuchin monkeys. An emotional support monkey is not, that's BS, okay? It's like the lady who went on the freaking plane the other day with a duck and said, it's my emotional support duck. This is garbage, just emotional support stuff, all right? It's different if you have a monkey that is going to provide you, you're a quadriplegic. You cannot open the refrigerator. You cannot provide yourself a drink. The monkey can actually put a drink in a glass, bring a glass with a straw in it, put it to your lips so you can drink. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about someone, no, I love my monkey. It's cute. He makes me stable. He makes me calm. He makes me feel good. That's
Wow.
BS.
Organ grinder was my nickname in college, by the way.
Oh, jeez,
Ron,
Cody, God bless.
Can I just ask you this? Can a monkey, and this is a serious question, can a monkey be trained to return?
Say that.
To return
Why
a
wouldn't
shopping
he
cart?
say that? He should say that every opportunity it comes into his mind.
Can a monkey be trained to return a shopping cart to the corral? Serious question.
Jeez, I just feel like my brain is draining every time I do this show.
Ron, how do you know that ducks can't offer emotional support?
How do you know?
Billy, you know, I just think that people sometimes take advantage of situations, okay? Look at what people have tried to do, claiming emotion. We have people do it here at the zoo all the time. People come in, you're not allowed to bring certain pets into the zoo, okay? And you have somebody who comes in, you know, and they may be walking a goat, and they say, this is my emotional support goat. Well, you know what? It's not going to work, because the emotional support goat is going to create a problem when he's walking through the zoo, when the tigers and lions embarrass you. You see, so we have to sometimes use some common sense. Common sense has become less common as life seems to be going on these days. And I just think people abuse privileges. I do agree that there are animals that do play a valid role as emotional support animals in people's lives, but I believe there are many more people who lie about it because they want to have their little pet because it's cute and I love him and he loves me and that's it. And that's not going to fly, guys. That's not going to fly. You can't take advantage of situations where you're making people who honestly need that help. You're causing them to not be able to get it because of jerks who lie.
He's furious,
Yes.
and I rarely see him this way. How often does this happen? Like ducks, and what are the other absurd ones that you have seen that you're like, that's not emotional support? In fact, it's probably easier to just say, what is emotional? What do you classify as legitimate emotional support animals?
I can imagine many dogs, many cats being legitimate emotional support. And I'm not saying other animals cannot be emotional support animals, but I'm saying that we need to have a better verification. It's not that you can go online, buy yourself a little tag that you put on your animal's collar and says, a credible animal, emotional support animal. No, anybody can do that. That's the problem with online. You can buy anything you want now. You're going to need to have a license that a licensed physician, a doctor says, this person needs this animal for such and such reason. It's a medical necessity, okay? Not because this person says, oh no, but when I'm not with this animal, I just don't feel good. No, that doesn't work anymore, guys. There's too many people that need these crutches and say things like, and they're just taking advantage of a situation and making it bad for people who really need those things. So I guess the bottom line is we need more credible validation. Not that you go on the internet and buy a patch that you can put on your dog's chest and say, I'm an emotional support, or put it on your peacock and say, I'm an emotional support, or, put it on your goat, I'm an emotional, or your pig, or whatever. And just because you bought it online and you put it on your animal automatically makes it so. That's not how this works.
Isn't it up to the individual to determine what gives them emotional support? Not you, not a doctor, the individual. No? I mean, that's fair. Perhaps a duck does give emotional support for some people, and for others it doesn't,
Quackly.
Stugotz. Oh, geez. Stugotz, listen.
I'm not rolling it
Suppose somebody said, listen, you know what? I need to have this machine gun on me all the time because it gives me emotional support.
Mhm.
Okay?
Ron,
You've taken this.
I mean, that's a little too far.
Come
Ron.
on.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys talking about taking things a little too far? You guys? Are you
Yeah.
serious? Okay. I'm just saying the person cannot determine what is emotional support. It needs to be done by a physician, a licensed psychiatrist, someone who is a professional who can make that decision. Because if you allow anybody to make that decision to qualify what's emotional support, what they should be allowed to have with them all the time, we're going to have chaos, guys.
Dr. McGillicuddy will give you a script for anything you want, including a goat, which brings me to this, Ron, not to be argumentative, but seriously, if somebody is walking a goat into the zoo and they can produce a legitimate doctor's note, then what do you do?
Then we'll let them in. If there's a legitimate doctor's note, we'll let them in. We'll just have to be very careful as to the reaction of animals when they're walking through the zoo. Listen, I use that as just a grab in the dark extreme. I mean, we have goats here at the Children's Zoo that we walk around the zoo every now and then. It's not a problem. What I'm saying is you just have to have some kind of validation, some kind of credible validation, not just a person's word. And because they're wearing, a vest on the animal that says emotional support animal. We need to have more than just that because anybody can get that online. And again, I hate to sound so cynical because I know there are people who generally have these emotional support animals that play an invaluable role in their lives. But I also know there's a lot of scammers out there that make it bad for everybody else.
Billy, I want to ask you a question because I have grown, and I know you guys have a lot of experience with this, but what just reminded me of it was a fine emerging and Stugotz saying you could Venmo him directly, and just his perpetual, his speed with the scam, and makes me...
I take Zelle too.
Makes me question everything. And so I saw that you released his college picks this weekend, which were good. He was 6-1 or 7-1 on his college picks. But then I looked closer and it said win for Maryland and -3 or -5.
You checking me?
Well, no, I just thought Maryland. I thought, did I get the score wrong of that game? I thought Indiana.
That was an L.
I thought Indiana. I thought that was a loss.
It was. I'm not perfect. I corrected it.
Okay, but no, but it's not about your perfection. It just makes me think that Stugotz is moving strings in the background to get a better record and cheating.
Stugotz cheating? Huh. Shocking.
I mean, I knew it when I saw it, and I didn't tell Billy he was wrong. If that helps. He gave me 7-1. I knew I wasn't. I didn't say anything about it.
Ron, we will talk.
No one likes a golf snitch, by the way, Dano. I mean, you just took a win away from me.
It's not a golf snitch. I was thinking that you cheated. I was thinking that you somehow, because you're always trying to cheat and scam, I assumed that it wasn't Billy's mistake. I thought it was your morals.
I mean, I thought, some things stay between us. I didn't tell Ron you walked your dog into Publix. Did I? Huh?
What do you think about that, Ron?
Whoa.
Walking my dog into Publix. It wasn't Publix. It was a Whole Foods, but whatever.
I don't think that's if it's allowed and you are willing to pick up after the dog, should the dog have an accident, I see no problem with that, as long as there's no danger to the public. And
Backpedaling.
Make a note of that tone change there.
Yeah.
No. No.
What if Dan walked a duck into Publix, Ron?
Oh, if Dan walked a duck.
Those in power
Wait a minute.
protecting those in power.
Hold on a second, guys. Listen. Dan is walking the dog and Whole Foods allows him to walk the dog inside.
Right.
That's one thing. If Whole Foods says no dogs allowed unless it's an emotional support dog, and Dan goes in there and says, oh, this is my emotional support dog without any credibility, then Dan's an ass.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow.
See you later, Ron.
All right, guys, have a good one.
Right.
So
You do the same pumpkins every year?
I do the same Home Alone pumpkin as a standard. It's a
Nice.
staple of my neighborhood. Neighbors look for it.
You all found
They
that
don't look
creepy,
for it.
right? You found
Yeah,
that
they do.
all of you found that photo creepy of him
Extremely.
with 3 pumpkin heads
Why?
all carved
Why
out.
was that creepy?
Wait, where is this? I haven't seen it.
Your
Dad-
little head's just like popping out
Dad,
between the pumpkins.
you don't look young in that picture.
I'm not young.
Does he look young in any picture?
I was going to say,
They're
the
ki- you know,
camera
some-
don't lie. I'm comfortable with my age.
You drink that coffee. Good segment.
He had a good segment.
He's proud of himself. He had a good
It was
segment.
a beautiful pumpkin photo. It was me and my 3 pumpkins. It's like me and my 3 kids. You're going to make fun of me for posing with my children?
It's not at all your 3 kids. It's 3 pumpkins.
Well, he created them like he created his kids.
Thank you, Billy. Artwork is the word for it.
Do you go to a patch? How do you select the perfect pumpkin?
I select them from Publix,
Ah,
which isn't quite as romantic as going to a
No.
pumpkin patch, but it's the
No.
truth. Publix has a beautiful array of pumpkins. They're gorgeous. They're $6.99 each. They're dense pumpkins. They produce so much seeds. I must have baked 1,000 pumpkin seeds. Seriously. I still have them. I should have brought them in. There's the photo. It's a beautiful thing.
you just bake the seeds
Yeah.
Where's the photo?
and then you eat them?
Yeah. I mean, you dust them with Cajun spice or whatever seasoning you like. You dry them out.
It is beautiful.
Stugotz, it's the one with 3 pumpkins in it. Where's the photo? Says
I didn't see
Stugotz.
it. I
It's
mean,
the one with 3 pumpkins
I had
and
the wrong
Cody's
setting.
face in
That's
it.
right. I'm the second one from the left, by the way.
I was wondering. Thank you.
That is an O face.
See?
It is. You've
It's an
got
O-face.
It's
Yeah.
you. I want to know where your hands are on that second pumpkin because that pumpkin right there is getting something inserted in
Yeah.
its.
You're giving
Baby.
that pumpkin the whole, hey, how's your uncle?
When I looked at that Home Alone pumpkin, I worried for just a second that it looked like a yawning pumpkin. Does it look like a yawn, or does it look like the the Home Alone.
You're a good pumpkin
McCulkin.
carver. That is
Thank you.
those
Very
are
No.
detailed.
Those are pathetic.
What?
She's talking about these new age way of carving where it's like very detailed.
Yeah.
It's like this is like legit. My dad takes
I mean,
a pencil to these pumpkins.
I
What
do
do
it
you
by
got,
hand.
Smitty? You did yours back in August.
I actually didn't carve a pumpkin this year for the
See?
first time in my life.
And yet you criticize others who do.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, I've done it before. I just
Yeah?
didn't do it this year.
Yeah,
All
why
right.
not? Why not, Jessica? Why didn't you do it this
Because there's
year?
no pumpkin
Because I
patches in
live in
Florida,
Miami.
apparently.
Because you couldn't.
All right.
That's why.
Next Tuesday,
Yeah.
pumpkin carving contest.
There's only
The
one
little
way
way,
to settle
I
this.
mean, yeah. But Greg is dedicated to his craft in a way you are not, Smitty.
I am.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Do you want to have a pumpkin off?
We
Do you
have
want
to.
Do you
I
want to
would.
have?
Off.
What are the
We-
parameters?
We need to.
You are going up against Greg Cody, and the room will
Mhm.
judge who has carved the better pumpkin.
Yeah, we'll do
Let's do it.
freestyle.
Yeah.
Let's
whatever,
go.
whatever your heart
Excellent.
desires.
No rules, just right.
15
Any
minutes.
tools we'd like to use?
The
Yes.
same.
Yeah,
what,
of
what type of
course.
tools are you
She's-
using?
Carving tools.
Maximum of 2 tools.
Wait a
No,
second. What do you
Greg.
mean
Yeah,
by-
maximum
Now
of
he's
2.
Max
making up
tools.
tools.
No.
Wow.
Whatever tools you
Back
want.
You
in
just
my
changed the
day, we
game.
carved a pumpkin with a machete in our bare hands.
That's
I'm
right.
Greg Cody.
Wait,
And
what
that's
do you
back in my
use?
day.
Thank
What do
you.
you use?
You use there's very fine tools. You can poke
God.
holes
That's
to make
fine.
designs.
That's allowable.
She could
Greg.
do it
And then
her
you can
way.
use
Yeah,
the
come
sharp
on.
Yeah.
knife, a fillet knife, perhaps.
Let her do whatever.
No
she
limit.
wants.
No
No
You do it
limits.
your
It
way.
is a
It's
competition.
a battle
She-
of the sexes and battle of generations.
Yes, we're going to do it next
Okay.
Tuesday.
I have a tool that's unusual. It's not a knife.
No, we've seen your belly
you are a
button.
tool
No,
that
no,
is
no, no,
unusual.
It's not my belly button. Don't be ridiculous.
The big toe.
Time now for Jessica's aforementioned back in my day. Let's do this, Greg Cody. You ready? How you feeling about this one?
It's an unusual one.
It is time to take a trip down memory
I thought Jess had it back in my day for a second.
I know. I wish he did. Take some of the heat off me. Skywriting. So many sights and sounds of my youth have disappeared into the ether. The searchlights strobing across the night sky from in front of businesses having grand openings or big sales. Air raid sirens filling the air until the National Civil Defense System did away with them in the 1990s. Trucks driving through neighborhoods like 1440 and emitting billowing white poison clouds to murder mosquitoes. Sometimes small planes would do that too, crop duster style. Those old things I don't miss much. You know what I do miss? Skywriting. It was a part of my lifelong fascination with looking up. In junior high, I saved up for months and months and spent $119, a lot then, for a brand new telescope at Gold Triangle because I loved stargazing at night. I'd bug my parents to drive me to the Bueller Planetarium at Broward Junior College when they'd have occasional shows. I'd use a small magnifying glass in the sun to set paper and dry grass on fire. I'd lay on my back and drift into the clouds, seeing shapes in them. I once saw the outline of the face on a buffalo nickel in a fat cumulus cloud. You try to take a photo and it isn't there. You point it out to someone else and they don't see it. That's the magic of clouds. So, there used to be skywriting, which I always saw as man's failed but oddly noble attempt to communicate with clouds. Now you see small planes pulling advertising banners. How garish. Or pulling messages like, "Will you marry me, Rhonda?" or "Fire Manny Diaz." Too obvious and easy. Skywriting was an art. A futile art, the charm of it in its utter hopelessness. Skywriting required the perfect synchronicity of a blue sky, calm wind, and a qualified artist in the cockpit. Even then, the joy was to stare up and watch the grand attempt inevitably fail. The natural elements defeating man in a rout. Say the message was, "I heart-shape Rhonda." The I had already begun to disintegrate halfway through the heart. Upon completion, the phrase was a long, indecipherable white smudge and what appeared to be the letters NDA. And there you go, $3,500. Well intended, but wasted. Rhonda appreciated the romantic-ish gesture, but secretly wished you'd plowed that money into a bigger diamond. A century ago, when the airplane was still a recent phenomenon, skywriting was considered the future of advertising. The air filled with engine-heated paraffin oil mixed with exhaust
that's not
to
true.
produce puffy clouds of
That's
white
not-
smoke
that's not true.
shaped into letters on the world's grandest canvas. In 1940, Pepsi paid 2,225 skywritten messages across 49 states. The tide turned gradually, perhaps starting when the New York Times had a piece referring to skywriting as celestial vandalism. The advent of television and then the internet made advertising ubiquitous. That and the exorbitant cost of skywriting made the airborne art fall out of favor to the degree sightings today are rare as a Fuller brush salesman knocking on your front door. I never stop glancing up, though. There's always another buffalo head nickel in a cloud somewhere, and maybe, once again, there will be the puttering drone of a small plane doing grand loop-de-loops and beginning to spell. The message will be unreadable by its completion, and only those who invest in the entire process will know what it said. It will be our little secret, gone with the wind at 10,000 feet. I'm Greg Cody, and that's how it was back in my day.
You were Baker Mayfield powering through what was happening in your throat.
Thank you.
And I wanted to ride out with you. I was hoping, as funny as it was, skywriting by itself, looking up as a phrase. You longing for looking up. Right. The reason that you look up is for skywriting.
That's right.
That cloud game that you play is fun, though. Finding objects in the cloud. Oh, it's so much fun.
Yeah. And then you try to point at it, and
never
so somebody
there.
else will see it.
You're the only one who can see it.
Only one.
Yep.
It's like a secret prize.
Yep.
Still do it.
Were any of you surprised over the weekend to see Matt Damon shilling crypto and Aaron Rodgers in his John Wick Halloween costume, telling you to get into the Bitcoin game? I was surprised by Matt Damon. Am I wrong about this? Does he do a lot of commercials? Because my immediate thought was, how much are they paying him to gaze out into the galaxy and say, fortune favors the brave? And then you don't know what the commercial's been for the entire time. You're just watching Matt Damon walk around and saying to yourself, why is Matt Damon talking to me on television? I'm not used to seeing him here. And then it ends with just crypto. And then I'm like, oh, they must be paying him so very much.
I'm certain they are. I mean, these crypto companies, some of them are involved in startups. Like I know Rob Gronkowski is involved in a startup crypto company. But the crypto companies are doing very well. And so it would not shock me at all if they paid Matt Damon a good deal of money just to sit there and gaze into the future.
There were a lot of ads for this over the weekend, and then I was surprised to see Aaron Rodgers doing that as well on behalf of Bitcoin. Again, he was working the costume for months now. It was a good costume, correct? It's not just because I'm fanboy on Aaron Rodgers on all things. He looked like John Wick, correct?
Yeah, you did.
And he was advertising on behalf of Bitcoin. In fact, Mike, he was using the phrase that you and Chris Cody use on the shirt, to the moon.
Yeah, it's a thing. A lot of tourists around. Don't get me started on all these people.
The newbies?
Bunch of noobs. Where were you during the big dip of 2021?
The Great Depression.
Isn't there some flippage? Isn't there some term now that's some ominous term? Is it flippage that means that this is the Great Depression has arrived?
Now that the market's bouncing back a little bit, y'all want to talk to us. Meanwhile, we were hodling like crazy, hemorrhaging cash. And now that Tesla's at an ATH, you all of a sudden want to talk stonks again. I'm not here for it, man. The last few months were rough for me.
But you're back now, no?
ATHs, baby. ATHs, all-time highs.
I've been reading articles, Mike, and I don't know whether or not Greg Cody has gotten involved or caught up in this, because I know that he thought it was perfect. He thought the Manning cast was perfect. And now I've seen articles, plural, written about, is this the future of broadcasting? Is it all about to change? Because the Mannings last night get Jon Stewart and Josh Allen and Michael Strahan and Michael Irvin and whoever they want, really. Because Jeff Saturday's like texting, hey, can I come on? No.
Mm-hmm.
And there are all sorts of people that aren't allowed on because they've got too much star power.
They went outside of sports with Jon Stewart, huh?
Yeah, they led with Jon Stewart. I don't know. Mike went very detailed last week, along with Chris Whittingham, not liking the production of what is a popular show. But I didn't see it last night. So did any of you guys watch what is increasingly? I did hear Michael Kay interviewing Steve Levy about whether he would kick a cord that would knock the Manning cast off because they're eating up the viewership of Monday Night Football.
Would he?
He said no, he would not. He's not that
He's
kind
lying.
of. He's not that kind of guy.
Totally lying.
Liar.
Yeah, leaves.
Put it on the poll. Is Stevie a liar? Leaves.
You call him Stevie?
Steve-O.
Did everybody else that was touting the Manning cast still watch it? Because I gave up on it. I stopped watching, and I've done a bit of digging. There are good producers associated with this, so I'm not really sure what the issue is there. Maybe someone needs to have a difficult conversation with Peyton, but from what I heard, a lot of the problems that have plagued this Manning cast were still around yesterday. So now I figure if there's something that pops, I'll see it on social media, and I don't have to be triggered constantly while watching something.
I watch it for the uncomfortableness. Yeah. Like I see, like they talk over each other. Manning, you can see on Peyton's face when they do talk over each other, he's stressing it. I love watching him panic reading his sheet in between questions. It is the one fair criticism. The audio on the guests is terrible. Like Whitty is spot on with that. And Mike's right too, that it is a little sloppy, but he mentioned like going to breaks can get sloppy. The TNT show, they gets a little sloppy going to breaks with Chuck trying to like talk over the stuff is that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but you always have Ernie there to kind of fix all of that.
But my point is even that show has moments where they like get caught going to break because they're trying to be funny. But I don't know. I'm riveted by it. I'm into it. I'm like pointing to my wife. You see what and then she's not watching. But it's just I'm into it for some reason. It's riveting. Maybe it's because I'm a producer and I can kind of see what Mike is talking about. And I'm just kind of like enjoying. I love watching Peyton's face the entire time.
It has all of the elements that you need, even if it's bad. It's something, whether it's star power or whether it's, hey, can I get to watch Peyton Manning get frustrated because a quarterback has made a throw, an honest frustration because a quarterback has done something that has pissed off his sacred quarterbacking skill viewpoint. It's more interesting than the way it's being done, which is the way it's always been done. And I did hear, who did I hear say this the other day? It was on the same Michael Kay show. It might have been LaGreca saying, I want my football the old-fashioned way. I want it the way I've always eaten it. I want it, make my meal the way it's always been made with Steve Levy and a greasy.
Heck of a day you carved out for yourself the other day, listening to Michael Kay and Don LaGreca. I mean...
It wasn't a
That's
day.
what I did.
It was about 3 minutes in a car I got into where it was already on.
I think it works really well as a podcast. Like I was listening to the broadcast, the Manning cast, like last weekend while I was doing a bunch of stuff around the house. And it worked really well as them having a podcast with interesting guests. It doesn't work as well if you're actually trying to pay attention to the game and like gameplay and game action, what's actually going on.
Whose car did you get into? Joe Beningo's?
But that's like what we do with YouTube watch-alongs. Like you can't watch us and watch games at the same time. It's the same thing.
That's what I mean. Like if I really want to watch the game, like I don't love this Monday Night Football broadcast booth. It is not my favorite experience. But that's how you're gonna see what's going on in the game. Whereas like the Manning cast is good supplemental material if you don't really care that much and if you're like doing the dishes or cooking or whatever.
One of the things I was intrigued by with that show is, perhaps Peyton would explain to you exactly what's going on with Patrick Mahomes. But we're all fixated on the guest he's getting every week and the production elements of it. Is he teaching us anything? Because I didn't watch last night because I actually wanted to watch Patrick Mahomes. And Jess, I'm with you. Peyton and Eli distract me from the actual game. And so I wanted to see Mahomes and see just how badly he's struggling, and he's struggling.
He taught us about the P-drop linebacker last night.
Okay.
That's an actual football term, a P-drop linebacker. It's like a linebacker that looks like he's going to blitz, and then he just drops in and floats into coverage.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. It's what you think it is, a P-drop.
Anything on Mahomes, though?
I mean, that's info. You're not learning that anywhere else.
You're right.
A P drop.
Literally, I learned it on NFL Live with Ryan Clark the week before.
Did he call it a P-drop?
Yeah, did he?
No, he didn't call it a P-drop.
There you go. And Mahomes, by the way, got bailed out by another interception. Should have been an interception offsides there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The Mahomes thing
he's thinking too much out there,
it's
man.
It's just not hitting for me the way that now I'm like, do I even like his hair?
That TikTok that he's in the background of with his brother and his, I think, fiance.
He looks so unhappy.
Oh my God. How old is
That's
it?
a while back. The one where they're at like a table and they're doing like that.
When is it from? You don't
Like
know?
months ago. I remember seeing that.
Well,
There's a couple
it doesn't
of
change.
We should have known then.
It doesn't change the fact that
He looks
very
very
miserable.
sad.
It explains a lot. So Mike Ryan is reporting that the problem with Patrick Mahomes is his fiance and his brother on TikTok.
I've been on this for a bit.
You've been watching what you believe to be an unhappy Patrick Mahomes.
I
personally
no,
unhappy.
I have to be careful here.
No.
I've just observed on social media and I've been like, not for me. Leave it at that.
What's
No,
not for
you
you?
can't leave it at that. Don't Calvin Ridley. This is none of your business.
no,
Me, we're already here now. You can't.
I the brother and his
Jackson.
fiance being
Brittany.
videoed out at games. It's just not for me.
Do they embarrass him? Is this what's
They
happening?
embarrass me. Like I get cringy watching that. And I get cringy watching the Manning cast.
I will tell you that we were at Lake Tahoe. He was there. His brother was there. His family was there, and he appeared to be very, very happy and not embarrassed by them at all. I mean,
Yeah, well, that's what the Silver Bullets do. Right. I've heard
and Kelsey hanging around, I
from
guess.
producers that were on site that considered approaching Jackson Mahomes, and they were warned by other producers, you don't want to invite that into your life.
You've been on this for a while. You have been secretly. You have not been brave enough to get
Me,
out here.
this season's the chicken's coming home to roost.
Well, it's so convenient though. You are such a symbol for the media. At 4 and 4 is
Yeah.
when you appear with the boldness.
Yeah.
After they don't look right.
Dan, it's weird when he's throwing interceptions. All the shit that he used to do, it looked crazy to me then, but it was working. And now there was a spot on Monday Night Football where Brian Greasy was criticizing Patrick Mahomes for throwing across his body. He throws across his body. That's what he does.
It's what he does, but here's the thing: it's what Brian Greasy doesn't like ever.
Right.
Brian Greasy has carved out a nice little career for himself as
Brian
a
Greasy thinks ketchup is spicy. But you don't want Brian Greasy to weigh in on a true artist of Patrick Mahomes' stature, but it's just not. None of it's working. None of it's working. Now I'm questioning if it's a good contract they signed.
Yep, overrated.
75% of their wins have come against the NFC East. I look at that week 1 for the Cleveland Browns. I'm like, what a missed opportunity. That's a bad loss.
Remember when it was all see you in January?
No, now
what
it's
if
see you
no
in
one-
April. I'll see you at the top of the draft.
I love that you
No
are
one's seen
now
anyone
willing
anyway.
to get out there with these public. Patrick Mahomes' his family is a problem.
Yeah, big problem.
Massive problem.
But
You're putting words in my
I
mouth.
am.
'Cause I've been
I-
careful.
admittedly,
I've just said not for me.
But
You can put it on the cryon.
I am making it more aggressive than it has been in public because I've seen you scared to take this private take public that you have had, and the winning is what deterred you. You were afraid to get
Could
near.
be considered as a pot shot, and I don't want to get into a man's personal life. I can just. This is what I'm
It's
comfortable
not
saying.
personal if he's putting it out there in front of you and he's looking sad in a video while having dinner by
Well,
a.
no, you're reading into
dinner
it. He's
with-
not
He's not
saying
also.
he said,
Yeah,
right?
Jackson put
Right.
that
You're
out,
reading.
yeah.
Do you envision a day where you'll ever give me and Billy the deserved credit of saying something was off in Kansas City a year before everyone else? Do you envision that
A
day,
year
Dan?
before, you said
Year
this
before.
a couple of weeks ago.
We said it a year before everyone
You
else.
Yeah,
said
I
this
heard
7
you.
weeks ago.
Thank
You
No,
bet the
I heard
Chiefs
Stugotz.
last night.
I did. Holding out hope. It's the Giants.
You
It's
took a
Danny
double-digit
Dimes,
home favorite.
Gettleman.
Of course you did.
How about
Unbelievable.
some credit though? We said it last year while they were winning. By the
When
way,
is
going to a
last
Super
year?
Bowl. Yeah.
Did
Yeah.
not.
Didn't
Yeah,
say
you
it
did.
last
I heard
year.
it.
Oh,
No,
we
heard it.
absolutely
We
did. And
Yep,
by
we
the
did.
way, I don't hear you guys mouthing off to Mina and Dominique about how great the Washington football team was supposed to be.
Exactly.
No, wait a
Yeah.
minute. I have
Exactly.
mouthed off to them because I
Had
didn't understand
Dominique
what the
said
hell
what
they were.
we said about the Chiefs or Mina,
No,
things would be
I-
vastly
Taking it serious.
different.
How did Dominique
Mhm.
know? Right.
What he
Exactly.
said
What
was
did he see?
ridiculous. What Mina said was ridiculous, and I didn't understand why Washington, Dominique, or Mina thought they were a Ryan Fitzpatrick away.
They might have been. We lost.
The
them
Chiefs
first
were
year.
7-1
Water
a
slide.
year ago.
It
Right.
was December. It was
No,
December.
we saw it in the playoffs.
Yeah, the
So it wasn't a
playoffs.
year. You guys said a year ago. So I went
Last
back
year.
a year.
I said last season.
You
Last
saw it in the
season.
last game. You
Said
didn't
a
see it
year
in the
ago.
playoffs. You saw it in the last
Yeah,
game when
that's
their
right.
offensive line was out. That's when you said something's off.
Yeah.
I have.
But we
charted-
said it, and that's all that matters.
I have found
Yeah.
patient zero for when things started being a little off
Last
for
season.
Kansas City. Was last season. It was December 27th, 2020.
Mhm.
Raheem Morris's defense plays two high safeties against Patrick Mahomes, and the Chiefs narrowly defeat a bad Falcons team that only had 4 wins at the time, 17-14. And we're all like, curious. And
Mhm.
since then,
Not we all.
everybody.
Not all of us.
Well, that was just like
We
that was
said
a
it
very,
that Monday. Look it
That was a
up.
very
Mhm.
curious result. And since then, everybody's been replicating that formula against the Chiefs, and they just don't know what to do with it.
Mhm.
The answer is run the ball and be boring, and they just refuse. And I kind of understand, but it's what to do against that. Just run the ball effectively, and they kind of do. But then they get away from it because they're the Chiefs. Because you know why, Dan? They're chasing the dragon and don't respect the Duke.
You've said this before. They are 4-4. I love that Stugotz wants credit for a murky take when
To share it with Billy. I mean,
your Chiefs take, though. Like, I feel like all of your Chiefs analysis has been invalidated by what your original take was, unless you're now arguing
what was that?
that. Well, you said that you were daring Andy Reid to bench Alex Smith in favor of Patrick Mahomes.
Not so dumb now.
Maybe
I
you'll
mean,
come. It seems like it's still pretty dumb. But
We're struggling to keep track of what the takes are because it was the Packers that were tanking.
Right.
No.
And then
No.
something was off. About
Right,
the
something
Chiefs.
was off.
No.
Something was off with
Or
the
was
Chiefs.
Mahomes
Something
tanking.
was off with the Chiefs.
Right.
The
I know
Chiefs,
what you
yes.
guys are trying to do.
Accurate.
Right.
This
It's
is the
not gonna
thing where you
work.
guys all
Yeah.
gang up and bully everybody.
No,
This is a
No,
common
I'm here
thread
now,
not
Billy.
happening.
Just
Thank
asking
you.
follow-ups.
I'm
Thank
here
you.
for
You
Right.
weren't here the last time this
I
happened.
I know,
You
but
guys-
I'm
no.
here now.
You
No,
said
what
no.
happened to Aaron Rodgers, we said, was he threw that first game,
Okay.
which he did.
Yep.
And it was a statement game.
Mhm.
And you can look it up.
You should.
And since then, he has come back. And we said that the last game in particular was going to be a statement game. It was a pelt game, I believe. And that it was.
It was. All right.
Mhm.
What I'm trying to get to the bottom is not an gotcha here, Billy.
So confusing.
I'm
Pelt on
just
the
trying to
wall
find
game.
out-
I don't think Cody needs an explanation on what the pelt
Oh,
game
he
is.
knows.
It-
Greg
I
knows
figured
more
it
than
out.
anyone.
It was a
Yeah.
pelt
I
on the
figured it
wall
out.
game.
Yeah.
You know, doesn't have one Kyler Murray.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. If
Mhm.
anything, he lost the pelt.
Right.
What I'm getting at is the Chiefs play the
Peltless.
Packers.
Hole in the wall
The
now.
Chiefs
Scott
play the
Van Pelt.
Packers this Sunday.
Mhm. You know, SVP.
Scott Van Pelt.
Chiefs play the Packers this Sunday.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get an idea of what your take is before you have the
Nothing to do
result
with
in
it.
hand. Before you start going on your bullshit.
Greg Cody really does love. It is such a delight to watch how radiant he gets when he is able to just get in there with a Scott Van Pelt, and he's just so pleased with himself. It pleases me to see you that happy.
If there was no Scott Van Pelt, what was the next Van Pelt you
I
were
was
going to?
scrambling, man.
Alex Van Pelt,
Yeah.
former Bills quarterback,
Right. I was scrambling.
former was he Pittsburgh quarterback
I think
Alex
so.
Van Pelt.
Yeah.
Pitt Panthers. Let me ask you guys this question because I don't know how much it's covered in the mainstream media over the last couple of weeks. But did you guys see very quietly right before the weekend the salary of Roger Goodell leaked?
Yeah.
What was it?
What is it? Yeah.
Do you want to guess?
Well, I don't think that was a salary. I think that was a finder's fee, a bonus structure.
No,
for
well,
negotiating.
I should. You're right. It's not
was both.
salary. Do you want to take a guess at what Roger Goodell has earned the last 2 years? You're right, Mike. It was bonuses. It's incentives.
So what he's earned.
For
Okay.
basically, and if you've read Seth Wickersham and Don Van Nott on this, basically for having DeMaurice Smith in his pocket and negotiating a deal that now in retrospect people realize, oh, the players really got bleeped on this one. This was not a good deal for them to negotiate. Would you like to know how much NFL owners in incentives gave Roger Goodell because of how much money they're making? Roger Goodell, who during the pandemic made a show of, I'm not taking a salary this year.
Right.
$0 of salary. Now, guess what he's made the last 2 years?
I would say somewhere in the neighborhood of $400,000 per year.
Well, I know, so I'm not going to spoil it, but let's just say it's a little bit north of 400,000.
$4 billion?
Is that a serious guess?
$128 million.
What? Oh my God. That is a lot of coin.
That's Levitard money.
The last 2 years of Roger Goodell, $128 million. You're going to have a hard
Wow.
time
Job well
finding
done.
any CEOs making that much money. And he's not a CEO, by the way. He's just a commissioner.
No, but he negotiates these TV deals, which are a huge part of their business. And he wears all the public shame of being the face of all their bad decisions. I think he is worth every penny.
Well, they do too.
Well compensated?
I
Correctly
think- I am-
compensated?
It seems like a hard job. And look, he is not without blame here. He could do a better job of leading, but it is a very difficult job. And I think he is fairly paid for it.
But just be clear on that $128 million is the blood money that results in Washington not having any paperwork around this investigation. Just understand that because they pay him that way, that's the transaction.
Yeah.
It's the way that it works. Like that is Daniel Snyder cutting off Roger Goodell a little something to make sure he gets protected.
I mean, the power dynamic, though, is the way that you're presenting it, it ignores the power dynamic a little bit. Daniel Snyder is Roger Goodell's boss. Roger Goodell is doing something his boss says.
It does seem a little bit more reasonable when you break it down to about $2 million per team per year. When you say that, it doesn't seem, $128 million over 2 years seems absolutely ridiculous. But $2 million per team.
He's a piñata, and he's a piñata who is their public relations face, who negotiated a TV deal a whole lot of people could have negotiated. And that is an extraordinary salary that bumps him up based on just how popular their sport is, where they do not blink at, sure, we'll throw you off an extra $60 million a year.
Most people willing to be a piñata for that, I would imagine, right? I mean, you might not, but I think most people would be willing to have that job and be a piñata for $65 million a year.
My larger point is, back when we were talking about botched investigations and problems, like it wasn't that long ago that I assumed that Skipper was the one who pressed the button on this. I've never asked him, but everyone on a league partner on ESPN was calling for Goodell's firing. Like, was your media partner? That was not that long ago.
It felt like he was gone. There was one dinner that I had in the middle of all that Ray Rice stuff that it felt like Roger Goodell was going to lose his job.
I want you guys to step back, because I'm not even sure how good Roger Goodell is at his job, although I would agree with Mike, sure, break him off something. If you can manipulate and game the whole system so that nobody cares that you've blackballed Kaepernick, and from one day to the other you just said, oh, we got it wrong there, never mind about us. And never mind
the
about
owners think he's good at it.
Never mind. Yeah, but that's not where
I know.
I know. That's the, I know. That's not where my standard is for.
Nor should it be. I'm just pointing it out.
Well, but I know that billionaires would be generous with the one
to
guy
protect them
who's there. Like, I just want you to see it is all. I want you to look at what's happening there, because I'd agree with the assessment of, yeah, sure, pay him blood money. Pay him. He became what he is, and I'm not sure how good he is at his job. And a network that was a media partner was calling for his firing a few years ago.
Well, what he's good at is keeping 32 bosses happy. That's what he's good
because
at.
Robert Kraft less than happy with him on Deflategate, and
happy enough, I guess.
And Jerry Jones has been publicly less than happy, and I'm guessing Mark Davis isn't terribly happy right now. So not exactly. No. What he is the guy who makes that a profit center that could buy its way out of concussion settlements and can just drag John Gruden so you're not looking at what's happening in Washington. Just know what it is that he's being paid for. Just understand that as you're watching it, what's happening in a game that doesn't have a lot of morality, that is filled with all sorts of moral bankruptcy, that will be draped in the flag as a patriotic, conservative, America's most popular sport. He makes his blood money because they make so much of that money, and he gets his cut to be doing the devil's work. Just understand that that's what you're watching when the commerce of these transactions take place, and there are concussion settlements over here, and from one day to the next in America, Stugotz, NFL says, oh, we got it wrong on Kaepernick. Whoops. Patrick Mahomes, maybe they won't listen to Patrick Mahomes now that he's 4-4. And he's and his family's on TikTok embarrassing him. I wonder if Goodell would be listening to Patrick Mahomes and changing his whole public stance on what they did to Colin Kaepernick.
Meanwhile, ratings are up big time.
Yeah, I mean, and success is all over the place, right. And they've made some of the fixes that I believe a whole lot of people can get made that could have been made by a whole lot of people, and he's the one profiting off it some, because as Mike just said, how much must they be making to cut him off that little slice? And with a salary that makes us all wince, how, good God, how much are those other people making?
Squash season.
Right.
All of November is squash season.
Can you
Gordon
repurpose the innards?
Yeah.
Right.
Not the innards. Well, the seeds, yes. The innards probably won't.
All
once
right,
you
so I'm
carve it.
setting this up. This is happening next Tuesday. I know you're usually off on Tuesday because you're working on Off the Looking Glass, a brand new Batard and Friends podcast that just released its episode 0. Jess, what would you like to tell us about it?
Well, I didn't know we were on. I'm eating cashews, but Kate Fagan and I are doing a podcast together. It's going to be a little fun, a little serious, a lot of humor, a lot of skits, different kinds of things are happening in it. It's kind of hard to explain it because it's unlike anything I've ever worked on.
You've only had 6 months to figure out how to explain it. You decided to do so while eating cashews.
I didn't know we were on air. I was just talking about my pumpkin competition, and now I feel like I blew my one chance to promote the podcast.
No, the description says it's a magazine-style show, and I think that
it is. Like, we're gonna have some like little features that we're gonna do to like share with each other on the show. We're gonna have really great guests on. Kate is super funny, really smart. I think it's a really creative show. It's hard to explain what it's going to be because honestly, like I've never been on a show that's had as many elements as this one.
That's the best way to describe it. It's a hard show to describe, and I think you did it as well as you possibly could while eating cashews.
Do you have Gary the Bag Rosenfeld as a guest?
No, Greg, we don't.
There you go.
I still don't even know. I don't know who that is.
Listen to the podcast. You'll find out.
Exactly.
We will get to Stugotz's weekend observations in a second, but I have not yet mentioned what Marcus Smart said. We have not talked any basketball here today.
You teased that 4 hours ago.
I know.
Yeah.
And so now we're finally getting to it. I wanted to ask Mike Ryan the question, but I'll save it for tomorrow about whether or not you'd rather have the Heat or LeBron right now. Because,
Mike said yesterday he thought the Heat were the best team in the NBA.
Well, they're very good. This is why I asked the question. They are very good defensively. I am stunned by a couple of things with the Heat. One, that they're that good defensively, and two, they were second worst behind only Tibbs in pace last year. I did not think that Kyle Lowry would make that much of a difference over Goran Dragic. The pace is formidable. They were second worst. They were slow last year, and it's hard to stay up there. And I want the people listening to this. I know many of you think I'm in the tank for Pat Riley, but it's fairly amazing, Stugotz, that they continually are able, no matter how the sport changes, to make themselves some kind of relevant by doing things that a lot of other teams are not willing to do. Famously, the Boston Celtics, who Danny Ainge had all those draft picks and never did anything with all of those draft picks. And then Brad Stevens is like, get out of here. I'll get out of here. And now he's been praised for what he's done some of this offseason. But now comes the Marcus Smart boat as the Bulls seem to be good, and the Bulls smoked them last night.
Yep.
And Marcus Smart says, I would just like to play basketball. Every team knows we're trying to go to Jason and Jalen, and every team is programmed and studies to stop Jason and Jalen. I think everybody's scouting report is to make those guys try to pass the ball. They don't want to pass the ball, and that's something that they're going to learn. They're still learning, and we're proud of the progress they're making, but they're going to have to make another step and find ways to not only create for themselves, but create for others on this team to open up the court for them later in the game where they don't always have to take those tough shots or take tough matchups when they do get the one-on-one and see a trap. Just reading that, it's something that we've been asking for them to do, and they're learning. We just got to continue to help those guys do that and to help our team. This is Marcus Smart saying you need to do what's best for Marcus Smart. Get me the ball in the corner and choosing losses to say it.
Marcus Smart is shooting 29% from the field. I mean, I'd rather have Jason Tatum taking the shots down the stretch.
But Jaylen Brown,
29%, Dan.
Jaylen Brown passes the ball more than just about anybody who shoots 20 times a game. Passes the ball less, I should say.
Okay.
It's Anthony
but
Davis.
Pass to who is what I'm asking. I mean, you have Al Horford, but like pass to who? Who does Marcus Smart want those two guys to pass to?
Al Horford.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Who does he want him to pass to?
Al Horford.
What do you mean?
Is he still playing?
Yeah.
I think, he went back.
He plays for the Celtics.
I know,
Jeez.
but
he starts. He's playing well. That's my point.
It's Jaylen Brown, and it's Jason Tatum. You told me Jason Tatum was Kevin Durant. What do you mean do I want him to pass the ball to Al Horford? You told me Jason Tatum was Kevin Durant.
I think you're missing the point. Like Marcus Smart, what are you saying? I want Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum to hog the ball and take all the shots. Your other options are Marcus Smart, who's shooting 29% from three, and Al Horford. Who does he want them to pass the ball to?
I think
there's no one to pass to.
I think Marcus Smart is telling you he's shooting 29% because they don't pass the ball. That's
right.
That seems to be what he's saying.
It's pretty remarkable. He's calling his two best teammates selfish, is what he's doing.
I mean, Dan, he shoots 37% for his career, Marcus Smart. He's not a great shooter.
Stugotz, I don't think of Marcus Smart as a great shooter. I don't think we should be listening to Marcus Smart on much of anything, basketball analysis or anything else. I'm not telling you to build the team around Marcus Smart. I'm more noticing, oh, look, it's coming apart. Oh, look, that thing that was in the Eastern Conference Finals and got blocked at the rim by Bam Adebayo. One of those teams has gotten a good deal better since then. Another one just remains sort of stuck in this quagmire of not making the improvements that need to be made, while the Miami Heat, every year, they're putting up something that's better than what Boston's doing.
And I'm just saying that Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, what they're processing is, should I take a bad shot or pass it to Robert Williams III? Like, there aren't many options on that team.
Stugotz, Danny Ainge didn't do anything with all those draft picks. Was criticized all the time. Where's the big move? Where's the big move? Gordon Hayward, where's the big move?
You're
Kemba
right.
Walker, where's the big move?
You're right.
He leaves the job. Brad Stevens did what to earn that job? He was there.
He was there. And to your point, it is amazing what Riley consistently is able to do. To take Jimmy Butler, a guy who you thought, hey, third best player on my team, we're really good. I'm going to make him the best player on my team. And they're really good.
Phil Jackson underestimated how much work that takes, and Danny Ainge underestimated how much work that takes, and Brad Stevens may not underestimate how much work that takes, but it's hard. And now he's going to have to change it up because those two guys aren't enough. The team they built is not enough.
Right.
Because you're sitting here talking about Al Horford, and we care about what Marcus Smart is saying. It's not enough. They have all
It's
those.
not even.
They have all those draft picks, and they're not a player
It's
anymore.
not nearly enough.
Right.
Right.
But he was Kevin Durant, according to you.
He was, yes.
So not anymore.
Well, we'll see. I mean, the jury's still out, you know.
Put it on the poll, Guillermo, at Levitard Show. Is the jury still out on whether Jason Tatum is going to
can't win
become
around here.
Kevin Durant? Let's do.
Did I break news telling you Al Horford's still playing and playing for the Celtics?
Let's playing well for the Celtics.
He is.
Playing well for the Celtics is where it is that you broke the news. Go ahead and.
It is time for Stugotz to share his game notes. No one in the media will tell you what happened better than my boy Stu.
Dan, after losing 2 straight games by a combined score of 81-33 and losing their rookie quarterback for 2 to 4 weeks, things looked as bleak as they've ever been. But with a scintillating performance by quarterback Mike White that led to a victory over the Cincinnati Bengals and left us all confused. Dan, make no mistake about it. For the second time this season, the New York Jets are back. Exciting. So confusing. Speaking of Cincinnati, University of Cincinnati, 31-12. Ain't gonna cut it. Well. Look what the Canes found. A quarterback. That's you never know where you're gonna find a quarterback, Dan. You never know.
That's what you're betting on with Mike White.
That's all I have left.
It's a reason to hope.
You like this Canes quarterback, huh?
He throws the ball around in a way that has been surprising me. I believe I said 3 weeks ago there's no way they beat Pittsburgh.
I'm glad you brought that up. Dan.
Did you forget that I said it?
I told you Pitt wasn't any good. I said Pitt wasn't any good. You gave one of those dismissive laughs you like to give and said Pitt was very good. I said they weren't. You said they were. It was terrible sports radio. I could play the tape back for you if you like.
Pitt's good. Pitt is good.
They're not good.
Their quarterback is one of the best quarterbacks in the country.
Is the U back then?
That
No.
safety should have counted.
They're not
Also,
good.
you want your pound of flesh for the Pitt take, yet you're skating on your Sparty shit.
What do you mean?
You've been taking the Sparty out all season long, and that was a huge comeback win for them.
Sparty party. They'll lose. You know what the P in Pitt stands for? Please. The Jets have beaten the Titans and the Bengals. Football.
I want to be clear on your.
How is that possible?
I want to be clear on your college football analysis.
Yeah,
Is it if you lose, you're not good? Is that it? If you lose a game, you're not good because you're still saying Michigan State's not good and they haven't lost a game. You're giving us a promise of a future loss game.
Oh, they're going to lose. Big time. All those Big Ten schools are going to lose.
But if you lose, you're not good. If you lose one time, you're not good. But Cincinnati's also not good because 31-12 is not good enough.
That's not going to slice it, Dan.
Okay, so it's not.
Dan, they are playing for style points, and when you beat a one-win Tulane team 31-12, that ain't going to cut it. It's not.
Is Cincinnati in your top 4 tonight when the new playoff committee rankings come out?
Absolutely not.
Top 10?
Find out this Friday on God Bless Football. BCS reveals its second rankings of the season. How about that?
I don't have them in my top 4.
That's a terrible tease.
Where do you have them?
Well, Billy, I do have my top 10 predictions of what will happen tonight when the committee releases their rankings.
You have 10 predictions.
You have 10. Wow.
I mean, I could do like my top 8.
After weekend observation.
Oh, in between? I don't care.
Oh,
What
yeah,
you just
good
go for it.
idea.
Yeah, just go for
Number
it.
Well, no,
10,
dude,
Yeah,
Notre
this is
Dame.
great. Perfect.
They're
Of
ranked
course.
10th.
They have one loss to the number 7 team, Cincinnati. At the time, they were ranked 7. Number 9, Wake Forest, undefeated.
You have them at 9.
I have them at 9. If they win out, if they win the ACC, they have to be in. A undefeated conference champion has to make the playoff.
Okay.
Number 8, Michigan. They have one loss to Michigan State. Michigan State, spoiler alert, in my top 4. Number 7, Cincinnati.
Low.
Not because I
Michigan
want
State
them to
is
be
4.
7. This is where I think the committee will put them. I
They're
don't think the
screwed.
committee wants them in the top 4. They have one quality win against Notre Dame. The rest of their schedule, they will not probably be playing any more ranked teams.
And they're lacking style points.
They're lacking style points right now. The Navy game, yikes.
No,
Bad
you had to
nickname
do
as well.
that.
Number 6.
Well, you don't want Cincinnati playing Georgia. You don't really want.
I do.
You can't put too many points on
I'm
Navy.
happy for Cincinnati. I want them in the Final Four. I don't think they're going to be in the top 4 tonight. This is my prediction. This
But they're
is
not gonna.
me. This
But they're
is-
not gonna move up. They're
Exactly. That's why I don't think the committee is going to put
Yeah.
them in the top 4 because then they're going to be stuck there. Because if they win out, then they're not going to get usurped by someone else.
Oh, so this isn't you. This is what you think.
is what I
This is
think is
what the
gonna happen.
committee's going to do. Yes.
Ah.
Yeah. Not
So
what
all
she
the
would do.
Cincinnati fans listening, all 6 of you, I'm just kidding. Haha, we kid. Love Cincinnati. Number 6, Oregon.
Do you love Cincinnati?
I'm so happy for Cincinnati. Oregon, Ohio State. This is going to be interesting tonight where they rank them because Oregon has a loss to Stanford, but they have a head-to-head win over Ohio State. Ohio State, number 5.
That's low.
Wow.
Again, this is your
Yeah.
predictions?
My predictions.
Okay.
Ohio
Nice.
State, if they win out, they have one loss to Oregon. They've beaten the number 20 team Penn State. They're going to have to play at Michigan
I
State
have
and Michigan.
no idea how Oregon lost that football game against Stanford. There's a team
Football.
that people would be talking about Oregon with Ohio State in the conversation after having beaten Ohio State. You can make the argument outside of Texas A&M, it was the biggest win in the sport this season. Oregon's got a loss there that Mario Cristobal should be dragged for. It's inexplicable how they lost that football
They might
game.
have the best win of the season, though, at Ohio State.
They might
I
have
mean,
the worst loss of the season.
Texas A&M
Exactly.
has the best one.
That's why.
Oh, yeah, Alabama.
This is
You're
going
right.
to be an
Sorry.
interesting place where the committee puts Oregon and Ohio State.
We said all of that.
Michigan
already.
State's
I did
4.
say
bet
all
you
of that.
anything.
Number 4, Alabama.
Wow.
They have one loss to Texas A&M, but they have 3 ranked wins, so they're at number 4. I think the committee wants them in. If they win against Georgia in the SEC championship, automatic in. Number 3, Oklahoma.
What happened,
Thank
Billy?
you.
Why are you making faces?
Why'd you say Michigan State was in the top 4 if they're going to be in the top 2?
Because the 4 are the ones that make the playoff, Billy. The top 2
These are
are
not
just the
her
1 and 2
predictions.
seed.
She's predicting what the committee will do.
4 is the important number here. Like you want to be in the top 4.
Just
the
wanna
top
get in the
Michigan
tournament.
State is going to be in the top 2 in your predictions?
They
Well,
are. They should be.
Oklahoma, this is why. Oklahoma's at 3 because they have a win over the number 21 team, Texas, who I believe will be unranked, who is unranked now because they lost another game. They blew a lead against Baylor this weekend. So they don't really have any quality wins, even though they're 8-0 right now.
Quality losses for the Miami Hurricanes, who have statistically the most difficult schedule of the college football
They're
season.
number 12.
They're not in my top 10.
They're back.
Number 2, Michigan State. They have a quality win over Michigan this weekend, number 6. And I think the committee will put them high because they're going to have to play against Ohio State before the season's out. So there's going to be opportunity for movement there between Ohio State and Michigan
So they
State.
could potentially be number 2 before they play Purdue. Oh, yes.
Yep.
Number 1, Georgia.
Georgia.
Wasn't a lot of suspense there with number 1.
Good contributions, Dad. Appreciate your contributions.
That was a
No
great
problem.
one.
Happy to do it.
You have to.
We
Yeah,
can
you have to
continue
sing
with
it.
your
Yeah.
observations.
Georgia.
Or I have revised my top 5 Heisman list.
Oh my God!
There's
go
also
to it
useless
now.
sound montage.
Oh my
Can we first
God!
just
Go
say-
to all of them.
Can we first just say how much it stinks for Cincinnati? So you're basically just saying, hey, you can go undefeated and you're just screwed.
Well, they need
Yeah.
Notre Dame to win out.
I'm just like, but like, why are we doing this? If
Yeah.
someone like that,
Such a good
they
question.
beat Notre Dame,
Such
They
and they're
say
going
points are
now
undefeated.
Notre
undefeated.
Dame's relevant.
Such a good
now
question.
Notre Dame's relevant. When Cincinnati wants to make in the top 4, Notre Dame's a good quality
But you're
win. But when
basically-
Notre Dame wants to be in the top 4, well, it doesn't matter because you're Notre Dame. You're irrelevant.
Is this the committee saying that or you saying
That sounded like you.
Yeah.
That
This
sounded
is
more
people
like
who
you than
tweet
the
at
committee.
me.
Yes, that didn't
Right.
sound
Well,
like
they're
a
not
lot of
in the committee.
anxiety and angst. for
Top
these people.
5 Heisman picks according to Mike Ryan.
This
Yes,
is
Greg
great.
Cody, you wanted to say something.
I just want to say it's a stone cold fact, and mark my words, there is 0 chance they're going to drop Cincinnati all the way down to 7. Not
They
going to
did
happen.
it last year to Cincinnati. I'm
Not
just
gonna
saying,
happen.
I could be wrong. These are my predictions based off of what we've seen the committee do the last 5
They
or
haven't
6
lost a
years.
game in 2 years.
even if they put Cincinnati at 4, I could see their wins the rest of the season are not going to be impressive. People are going to leapfrog them.
You
They're
guys aren't
screwed
listening.
either way.
Agreed.
No.
Jess is wrong.
Why
No.
would- like,
Greg
if I'm
gave
the-
a stone cold fact.
Yes.
God
Give us
bless
your top
football.
10 then, Stugotz.
You want my top 10? Friday. God
Probably
bless
worse than
football.
mine.
Yeah. God
Number
bless
5,
football.
I'm so curious if Pickett's fallen out of Mike's top 5 and Walker must be climbing. He must be.
Dan, Kenny Pickett has dropped out of the top.
Wow.
He's not the only one. Malik Willis of Liberty and also Matt Corral of Ole Miss. They have also dropped out of my top 5. Welcome back, Bryce Young at number 5.
Excellent.
Now, I said to win the Heisman, you have to go undefeated if you're playing quarterback for Alabama. I'm sorry. And that still remains true, but he's number 5 for now. He can go to New York and make the trip. Dan, I have an announcement to make. 2 Georgia defensive players are in my top 5 Heisman
They
candidate
should
list.
all be. It should just be their defensive line.
Well, there's 11 players playing on that defense, and this is a top 5. So I'm going with number 4. He had a monster game against Florida, which sits at 4-4, and I believe Stugotz still has him as a top 5 team in the country just because they lost to Alabama by 2 points.
Yes.
N'Kobe Dean was everywhere on Saturday, dominating Heisman moment against Florida in the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. N'Kobe Dean, number 4.
Is Dan Mullen going to get fired because they're doing that thing now where
Yep.
they're parsing the press conferences?
He's not going to get fired.
Mullen's
He's
not
never
ta-
cared about recruiting.
He's
Mul-
going to fire his defensive coordinator, pin it on him, and then he'll get one more season.
But they asked Mullen about recruiting, and he's like, "Don't talk to me about it. Talk to me after the season." While Kirby Smart is being quoted, and obviously he's got the players. He's being quoted as saying, "You've seen this, right, Stugotz?
Yes.
There is no coach out there that can outcoach recruiting. The best coach to ever coach the game better be a good recruiter because no coaching is going to outcoach players."
That is so honest from Kirby Smart, who is not a better coach than Dan Mullen, but a hell of a great recruiter. Much better at that than Dan Mullen is.
It's not entirely true because Dabo doesn't have those recruiting classes and has won championships, but it's
No,
pretty
he
damn
does.
close to
Well,
true.
no,
Dabo does.
Not top 5 recruiting classes. Not top 5 recruiting classes. Not
Dabo
Dabo's-
doesn't have those.
I'll check it out. Dabo had some really good recruiting
But
classes.
Florida has great recruiting classes. The problem is Alabama and Georgia's are better.
Florida's recruiting
that's-
classes are
yeah.
falling off. And remember what I told you. Everyone's crazy about the supersized SEC with Texas and Oklahoma. The norm is what's happening to Florida right now. It's not a bad team, but they're 4-4. That shit will not fly with people. So maybe too big for their britches. Number 3 in my Heisman list. Welcome another newbie to the top 5. Sam Hartman, quarterback, Wake Forest.
Their
Yeah.
offense is overwhelming.
20
Yep.
completions of 20-plus yards or over in the last month. That's 5 more than the next closest. It's a truly special offense, and he's got wheels.
According
Wake
to-
Forest, undefeated.
He
According
can
to
scoot?
Rivals.com, in 2015 they were 4th, 2016 they were 6th, 2018 they were 8th, 19 they were 9th.
You're talking
20
about Clemson.
Yeah, 20 they were 2nd.
Certainly not Wake Forest, which is why Wake Forest having their best start ever with this quarterback. He deserves to go to New York. Even if they lose a game, Sam Hartman has been incredible, dazzling to watch. Number 2, Jordan Davis, defensive lineman for Georgia. Now, if you watch the line of scrimmage with Georgia games, please do. The passing windows are being clogged because Georgia defensive linemen are lifting offensive linemen into the air, affecting passing windows. I swear to God.
They're overwhelming.
I swear to God.
It's one of the best
I saw-
defenses we've ever
I've seen
seen.
multiple quarterbacks pump fake because one of their offensive linemen has been lifted up into
Like
the air.
they're trampolining. Like they're watching their offensive linemen pop like popcorn.
Best defense I've ever seen. This Georgia defense, and I'm a fan of the Miami Hurricanes in 01. The Miami Hurricanes, you couldn't throw a ball in the air, it was getting picked off. They had ball hawks. They didn't have the sheer power up front that Georgia has. Miami would beat you with speed. Georgia's got speed and such power. The strongest damn team I've ever seen, I think. And number one.
Oh my God, he's climbed to number one.
Number one.
A running back. You're kidding me. He's number one.
KW3. Kenneth Walker III, 5 touchdowns, 197 yards on the ground in a monster game against Michigan. He has 1,194 rushing yards through 8 games. Guys, that is more than Derrick Henry had through 8 games when he won the Heisman. Kenneth Walker III is having a very special season,
breaks so
and I don't
many
care if they
tackles.
lose to Ohio State. I don't care if they lose to Purdue. Kenneth Walker needs to be in New York.
You're very passionate about that.
Statement game.
He is breaking a ton of tackles.
Useless Sam montage.
We can do that tomorrow.
I have a prediction. Mel Tucker's going to LSU.
Whoa.
Let me scratch
Wow.
that off my observations
Ooh,
here. Hold
what
on a
if-
second.
Hold on a second.
What if he holds out and waits till the Dolphins job opens up?
Wow.
Why would he do that?
More money?
Who wants that?
He might
job?
get more money from Michigan State just by flirting with LSU.
Do you want to continue your weekend observations?
Oh, yeah,
Or did you
forgot what-
forget? You're just watching everybody work.
Michigan. Ba. Michigan State. Great win. But just so we're on the same page, your loss is coming. Glad we're on the same page. Sparty. Michigan State. The rare Big Ten game that felt like it was from this century. Congratulations to the Big Ten, who for the first time had something that resembled a track meet. Alabama by 4 touchdowns over Georgia. Book it. Mel Tucker, LSU, collision course. James Franklin. Just so we're on the same page, you just played Ohio State, and next weekend you play Maryland. Games at College Park, by the way, 3:30 kickoff. You are welcome. Georgia, Florida, blue skies above on a beautiful fall Florida day. You know what that is, Dano?
It's Greg Cody looking up.
That's college football. Florida Gator fans who wanted Anthony Richardson. Careful what you wish for. Kenneth Walker III, welcome to the conversation. Remember when people thought Iowa was good? That's always a good time in the season.
I don't feel like anyone
everyone
thought
did. They were
that.
number 2 in the country.
Yeah, and
Stop
what?
it.
And you were doing the thing you do, what
Yeah.
you do to all the teams.
I do it every year.
You do it to everybody.
And now you guys are falling for it with Michigan State. I mean,
It's just fun to watch them. It's nice to. I'm not falling for it. It's just I like watching their running back, and I'm happy that they're actually relevant this season.
Dan, the football's been so great. It really has. I mean, there could be a World Series going on right now, and I wouldn't know it.
Because there is.
Georgia's defense is better at offense than Georgia's offense. Also, do it against Alabama. If football doesn't work out, I'm certain Stetson Bennett IV will enjoy running his dad's hedge fund. Next week, CBS Sunday Morning, an in-depth look at yawning. Genius.
I bet
am
it'll be
so
good.
there.
I bet you it'll be
Jane
good.
Pauley, man.
I bet you it'll be good.
I
bet
don't know
you
what
you'll-
that means,
You'll,
Jane Pauley.
you'll be yawning at home. Mike, there's no chance that Georgia dismantles Alabama, right? There's no chance that
No,
Georgia.
I just told you what was going to happen.
There's no chance that Georgia gets to look that physically dominant against Alabama, correct?
I'm not telling this Georgia defense they can't do anything.
Are we going to find out if yawning really is contagious?
This
Just saying.
Sunday morning
I bet Alabama's favored.
by a lot.
we went through this.
Okay.
They wouldn't be, I don't think.
10 points.
I bet they will
No,
be.
you don't. You
Not
don't
by
pay
10,
attention.
but
Well,
For Georgia to lose, I think it would have to be a game like that Clemson game. Clemson, for all the shit you want to talk about their offense, which is deserved, they have a top 3 defense in the nation. That's how you beat Georgia. We don't know how good Stetson Bennett is because he hasn't been called upon. If you drag him into deep water, we'll see what he's made of.
I love that expression.
Why would you do that in a football game?
I love dragging them into deep water.
It's hard enough.
It's so great to drag them into deep water because all of us, all of a sudden, if you're in deep water, that's perilous enough.
Yeah.
But you've been dragged there. It seems like you've been fighting.
Right.
It seems unpleasant.
Stetson Bennett the fourth is probably in line for running a hedge fund,
Yes.
not a pro career, right?
Mhm.
You don't have to be a pro to be a national champion quarterback. You just have to be situationally good. Craig Krenzel rose to the occasion several times for Ohio State. Can Stetson Bennett do that? He hasn't been forced to yet.
Well, if JT Daniels is healthy, is he going to play it all the rest of the season?
I think Stetson's
I've made a
earned it.
ruling
Yeah.
on JT. He is not better than
Why
Stetson.
did you pronounce Craig Krenzel's name that way?
It's $10 fine.
Is it?
What?
Do I
It's
have it wrong or
Krenzel.
you have it
Krenzel.
wrong?
Did
It's
I call him
Krenzel. You
Krenzel?
called him Krenzel like Denzel Washington.
Tomato.
Krenzel
I
Washington.
pronounce it the way Stephen A would.
Nobody says tomato. That's the weird thing.
That's true.
It
It
is
is true.
Krenzel. I don't know why I did that.
You got caught up. The Rams spent their entire visit to Houston in the red zone. You watched that game?
No, I was stuck.
They were in
with
the red zone the entire
Carolina. I
time.
was stuck with Carolina.
Poor
Atlanta.
Davis Mills again.
But they covered. Houston covers with
Yep.
the back door.
Well, they always
Brevin
do.
Jordan. Hey.
So did Buffalo, thanks to that late TD.
That was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Buffalo covering in that game. If you
crazy.
bet the Miami Dolphins, you
I had
thought you
Buffalo.
had that
Oh, my
game
God.
the entire game. That
Right.
was what a ridiculous cover.
Yeah.
What's wrong with your tricep, Greg?
I don't know. I'm just my left elbow was really paining me, but I didn't mean it to distract.
Little
Bobby
golf
Joe.
elbow, tennis
I don't know
elbow,
what it is.
something.
Yeah, weird.
It's not numb, is it?
A little bit.
It's not good.
How are your fingers holding up?
They're here.
Left arm stuff. Everyone out there could lead to a heart attack.
Mm-hmm.
Look it
Well,
up.
that seems.
Don't do that to you.
I'm
Sore
telling you,
elbow,
numbness.
for
That's
crying out
anytime I
loud.
get anything in my left arm or hand
Same.
that's like numb.
You're a
I'm like,
young
I'm having
man.
Same.
I'm just telling you, look it up. There are signs that if you feel numbness in your left arm as opposed to the right, like it's just kind of, your
Why
heart's on
would
your
you
left
drag us into this deep
Also,
water?
look out for plaque
Jesus.
buildup.
side. Plaque buildup?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you get a
Mhm.
lot of plaque in your teeth,
Not good.
And
You
both
might have
ways
heart
before you
issues.
cross the street. Yeah.
Mhm. For Halloween, the Jets dressed up as a competent football team. I really hope someone is keeping an eye on Dan Campbell. No one loves overtime more than Mike Vrabel. Free football. Carson Wentz did what Carson Wentz does. In that spot, I simply can't believe that Carson Wentz, with his left hand, the W in Wentz stands for righty. Zach Wilson, when you get a chance, look up Wally Pipp. Feels like every Titans game has gone to overtime. OT. I maintain that Mike Vrabel, whose team was winning, loves overtime so much that he was secretly rooting for the Colts to score that final touchdown. LA Rams, congratulations on doing what good football teams do. Buffalo Bills, congratulations on doing what you had to do. The Bengals, unfortunately, don't have much experience playing letdown games. They'll learn. Oh, what will the committee do with the Wake Forest Demon Deacons if they go undefeated? The Deeks. Dan, Virginia had to go to Provo, Utah on Saturday night, and BYU scored 68 points on them. As I told you about a month ago, along with the 3 Cheetah Strip Club locations in South Florida, it's one of the 4 most dangerous places to visit on a Saturday night in America. I hope someone checked on all those kids. There's a pretty good chance some of the Cavaliers didn't make it home. Josh Johnson is a Jet. Trevor Simeon is a Saint. The LA Rams traded for Von Miller. And you, of course, know what that means, right, Dan?
They're all in.
It means they're going for it right now. If they were playing poker, do you know what the Rams would be doing, Dan?
All in.
There, you got it. You must know what mode they're in, Dan.
They're playing for it all right now, Stugotz.
They're in win now mode, Dan. I will not move on with the college football season until someone can explain to me how Ohio State and Oregon have the same record. Oregon won the head-to-head on the road at the Horseshoe, yet Ohio State is still ranked ahead of Oregon. How the hell is that possible? Speaking of hell, Art Briles. Dan, those are the weekend observations.